The guy is sleeping peacefully in a quiet and peaceful atmosphere. It seems that nothing portends trouble. Suddenly, a book falls from the shelf on the main character and disturbs his sleep. The guy gets up in bewilderment. He has not yet understood what disturbed his rest. Suddenly, the main character sits up in his bed. There is a mirror opposite the bed, and he looks into it. The guy is horrified by what he sees in the mirror. He doesn't understand why another person is looking at him on the other side. The main character remembers that recently he was a young archaeologist, and now he looks like an ordinary high school student. The guy finds two books near him that he had not seen before. He wonders what they could be about because he has never seen such books before. The main character discovers another book. The main character decides to pick it up in order to take a better look at the book, but suddenly he gets an electric shock. The guy sees many different events and memories from the life of the previous owner of the body. The main character looks out the window and does not see species familiar to him, and realizes that he is not on Earth, but on a planet called Blue Star. On this planet, everything is completely different from the usual Earth. Here, everything has the opportunity to become an extraordinary being and awaken higher wisdom. The character flies on a huge bird. People on the planet Blue Star also have outstanding abilities, and this is the ability to control animals. A man develops his brain through meditation, which will subsequently help him tame and control divine beasts. The character stands in front of the animals he has tamed. Thanks to the ability to control them, people were able to create a civilization called the Age of Animal Control. The girl sits on a luxurious chair, surrounded by animals subservient to her. The character flies on a large electric stingray straight towards frightened people, because the strongest of supernatural animals often attack people. The guy realizes that everything he knows about animals and their abilities is in the memory of a boy named John, although the archaeologist himself has the same name. The boy's father and mother, who will never wake up, lie surrounded by angry animals and debris. The archaeologist, who finds himself in the body of a boy, realizes that the world into which he ended up due to unknown circumstances is not much better than on Earth. The guy realizes that he is no longer the same person he was before, so he goes to the scanner and opens his case plan. The main character discovers a huge amount of advertising on the screen and is very surprised by this. John closes all the advertisements that appeared earlier on the screen and sees a full-fledged plan, realizing at the same time that he is now an ordinary breeder trainee at an animal breeding base. The guy takes a book teaching him how to work. He works part-time at an animal breeding base only to become an animal master. The main character realizes that there are a lot of problems in his life: loans, a low standard of living, a difficult family situation. John thinks that first he needs to finish his plans for the day. The guy remembers that snow wolves are gregarious and extremely dangerous carnivorous predators. He is not sure whether he can cope with feeding from alone. The main character is confident that this will not be a problem because he has an innate talent, telepathy. The boy stands surrounded by animals because he knows how to contact all creatures. This skill is useless in battle, but nevertheless very important. Since John has the ability to talk to animals, feeding the snow wolves will not be a problem for him. Suddenly, the guy touches the magic cube to try to get to know the system better. The main character finds himself in a space unknown to him and flies in the sky. Suddenly, the boy sees a book in this space and realizes that this is his second special skill. The talent reference book is now unlocked for John. The guy realizes that people can awaken certain talents when activating space, which are divided into strengthening and specialization in a ratio of 9:1. People with the enhancement type can enhance certain types of beasts. This is a typical example of combat talent. Specialization skills are much more complex and varied than enhancement skills. John's innate talent for telepathy is one of the most common specializations, although it is not particularly powerful, but you can easily find work with it. Now the main character gets another skill. He will be able to copy and record the abilities of supernatural beasts, and then the abilities included in this book can be taught to other animals. This does not apply to people. In order to successfully copy the abilities of animals, you need to meet certain conditions. See how the animal uses its abilities, physically touch it, and the gap between the first two conditions should not be more than an hour. There is also the ability to copy and accumulate skills. If the main character wants to teach certain skills to the beast, then depending on the level of skills, it is necessary to expend a certain physical strength during training. John needs to take into account that a certain animal by nature has a certain level compatible with one or another skill. The guy thinks the talent of recording and accumulating skills is something to be envied. John continues to read the book and learns that the power of a beast master depends not only on the abilities of the beast, but also on the development of talents and skills, the rarity of a particular skill, and progress. The main character closes the book and thinks that now with this book he can collect the rarest talents. The guy also thinks that 2 skills can only benefit him, although in the memory of the former owner there is no mention of 2 talents. John does not believe that if this happened, then it should be possible. Like someone who has found himself in another world, he is definitely not an ordinary person. The main character thinks that the previous John from this world had the skill of telepathy, and he has the talent of copying, and ultimately comes to the conclusion that this simply needs to be taken for granted as compensation for being in this world. Suddenly the ball awakens. The main character pays attention to it, but realizing that he is late for work, he leaves home. The guy drives a special work car in search of food to feed the snow wolves. John finds pieces of fresh meat and admires them, saying that these animals eat better than people. On the way to the wolves, the main character meets 3 more workers who ask him if he is going to go feed the snow wolves. They warn the guy that the animals are not very friendly and ask him to be careful. John's colleagues offer to help, but he refuses. The guy continues on his way, thinking that he has no memories of him. John reflects that most likely because of what the owner of the body had to go through, he likes loneliness and is not particularly sociable, which is why he was unable to make friends at work. The hero decides that first, he needs to get to know this world better and then begin to establish interpersonal relationships. In the meantime, he already arrives at the place. Unnoticed by the guy himself, the angry wolves have already paid attention to him and are preparing to attack. At some point, he turns around and notices that a flock of animals has already approached him, grinning and looking menacingly. The wolves tell John that he is late and they are hungry to death. Now the guy is in great danger. The guy is very afraid and already regrets that he came to this job. He hopes that the Wolf King will save him. And then the Wolf King appears out of nowhere, pushing the wolves from his pack in different directions, thereby saving the poor boy. The proud, stately, handsome Wolf King heads towards John. The king approaches the frightened and not understanding hero. He touches the guy's forehead with his nose. Suddenly, a directory appears, flying out of the guy's clothes. He doesn't understand why it appeared right now. It turns out that the Wolf King's skill, namely restraint, is now written down in his handbook, and now John will be able to teach it to any supernatural beast that has the makings of it. The main character is very happy that now he will be able to use this talent of the Wolf King. He is glad that he has the powerful gift of controlling animals. The Wolf King approaches the guy, and he, using his telepathy skill, understands what the wolf is telling him. John is glad that now he is not in danger because the mark of the King of Wolves is working, and the rest of the pack has become more obedient towards him. While petting one wolf from the pack, the hero realizes that he can now teach him the skill of restraint received from the King of Wolves. Now he can create a King of Wolves with his own hands. John realizes that if he acts rashly, problems could arise. The hero continues to work, although he is a little disappointed that he will not be able to copy the skills of other wolves, because they also have talents characteristic of their race. The guy drives home peacefully, thinking that having a top-level skill in his reference book is incredible luck. Suddenly, a green eagle appears in the sky, which can be trained to contain the skill. It turns out that you can create not only a wolf king, but also a bird king. John thinks that if it weren't for work, he would probably do this, but the working day is not over yet. Everything has its time. The hero sees a panda on a billboard, realizing that this particular animal was chosen by the former owner of this body. On planet Blue Star, the panda race was completely formed, so they only have the ability of solidification. John thinks that pandas are quite lazy, but a deposit has already been paid, and this is a good offer. As a result, the new owner of the body agrees that the predecessor's choice was a good one. Unfortunately, pandas have limitations on the development of their race and skills, as well as benefits. The hero thinks he can handle it. It dawns on the guy that pandas can be used to mine minerals and use their skill, as well as John's recently acquired talent of containment, after which he can add skills from the category of acceleration and perception. The main character is happy that he came up with such a combination. Perhaps his panda can become the king of pandas. But suddenly the guy realizes that only those who have a breeder certificate and have completed an internship can take out a loan. The hero is briefly upset because he can pick up his panda cub only after completing practice, because in this matter you need to be savvy in all aspects. John returns to work, hoping that he will be able to copy his new skills. After some time, the guy finds himself undergoing training in observing and recording observations of silkworms, which requires maximum concentration. If he does not complete the task, he will be left alone with 1,000 silkworms. Looking at the insects, John thinks that individually they are too weak, but they have room to grow and all the conditions have been created for this. The hero uses the telepathy skill and laughs at the small silkworms, not expecting that such creatures could cause him any harm. The insects pay attention to this, some are offended, and some look at him angrily. Suddenly they create projectiles of silk and spray them on the guy's face at incredible speed. The hero, in bewilderment, thinks that at least this is harmless to himself. While holding one of the silkworms on his finger, John learns that it can be taught the skill of restraint. The guy is very surprised by this, since he could not even think that silkworms could be compatible with this talent. A new skill called silk bindings is recorded in the book. John sees that this skill cannot be taught to anyone, is a little disappointed by this, but reassures himself that at least it is a skill. In the reference book, the hero learns that this skill can be re-taught to a silkworm who has already mastered it. He also learns that repeating a skill increases his proficiency. The guy is worried and strongly doubts that he will be able to pull this off next to a bunch of people. Returning home, John sits down at his laptop and begins to study the types and abilities of the animals raised at the animal breeding base. Unfortunately, no animal has the skills it needs. The hero believes that the awakened skills of the animals raised here are of too low a level and are not worth copying. The guy doesn't know if there is a limit to how many skills he can copy, but he clearly only needs to focus on mid to high level copying. Suddenly, it dawns on the guy that at the base you can find not only animals, but also many animal masters. Full of confidence, John begins to look for the information he needs. The hero goes outside in search of the healing skill he needs. The guy feigns pain, tells the doctor that he sprained his wrist, pretending to be sick. The hero approaches the doctor, who thinks that this trainee has barely graduated from school, because they are usually the ones who are most often injured. The girl calms John down and says that she will cure everything now. Sitting in his place, the doctor begins to use his healing ability. The guy admires her skills and is happy that he can get him for his own purposes. The doctor says that everything will be ready very soon, asks not to worry, and guarantees that the pain will go away. The main character gains a new skill called fast healing. The girl tells John that now everything should be in order and reports that the dandelions informed her about the insignificance of this injury. The guy says that next time he will be more careful. The hero thinks that by coming to the doctor under the pretext of an injury in order to copy her abilities, he actually wasted her time. He decides that tomorrow he will buy some treats that plant pets like and thank them. Already at home, the guy examines his hand and reflects that despite the minor injury, the girl still used the power of her pet because this is an opportunity to improve the skill of the skill. To improve your skill, you can also use John's reference book. This ability can be considered an alternative method of accelerating training for pets. The main character lies in his bed, thinking that the doctor is a trainee master, and when his abilities reach a certain level, then he can take part in certification, according to the results of which he can raise his rank to a professional beast master. John doesn't know how long it will take him with 2 skills to become a professional beast master. 3 months later, the limit of abilities recorded in the reference book was exhausted, and the guy is glad that he did not rush and copy low-level skills. The hero finds the skill of foresight from the highest-ranking birds that patrol the territory in the skies above the base. The next skill, called absolute sleep, was obtained from one animal of the breeder from the base, the sleep demon. This ability helps the beast enter a deep sleep phase. The ability is considered restorative. John believes that these 2 skills will save you mountains of gold in the future. The guy sits in his room, hoping that the panda can understand him, because now they are too weak. He, of course, assumed that copying skills has its limit, but 5 is very little. The main character again finds himself in an empty space, where he discovered his second skill, suggesting that adding pages may depend on new specific abilities. You need to increase the level of the Beastmaster. A beast master can increase his level through meditative practices. He needs to continuously strengthen, change, and expand the beast management space. The more stable the beast management space, the more possible it becomes to hire higher-ranking beasts. The better the internal atmosphere of the space, the faster the development of the beast, the larger the scale of the space, the more animals can be concluded with a contract. Each beast lord himself decides in which direction to move. John has a goal to become a professional beastmaster within a year. The main character goes by bus to the panda breeding base. The country in which the guy is now is one of the most ancient states and is often called the brilliant or dazzling East. The bus continues its journey through beautiful scenery. This city is of the second rank. Pandas are a common pet not only in this city but throughout China. Now that John has arrived at the panda breeding base, he will be able to pick up the animal he had reserved in advance. He runs towards his pet. The hero has been waiting for this for so long and preparing for this meeting. Tired, John breathes heavily and complains that the stairs were very long. He says that he does not find it surprising why there are so few people here. Suddenly, something interrupts his thoughts, and the hero looks up at something standing in front of him. This is a huge panda. Apparently, the guy didn't expect to see this at all. The beast is so huge that it could easily crush a guy so small in comparison with him. The panda approaches John and, rubbing his hands, greets him. The animal tells the hero that he is an employee of this base. Panda asks John not to worry because it's just a suit, but the guy doesn't understand how he can wear a suit in such heat. The man in the suit explains that this is necessary in order to better understand and feel the mood of the pandas, because if you want to raise a strong panda, you must fully understand it. This is the basic skill of any breeder. Panda Man praises John for understanding him, and he in turn finally manages to hear a woman's voice under the suit. The hero reports that he is still only a beginner, and he is far from being the teacher Nicholas. A girl in a suit hugs a guy and says that this method is available to everyone and also offers to buy 2 suits at a good discount. It turns out that he is a teacher and calls his new beast. Panda offers to go inside to quickly pick up a new animal for John from the base. Apparently inside, the girl can finally relax and take a little break from her costume. A long-haired girl in a cute sweater with a panda appears in front of the guy. John thinks that she probably loves pandas too much and hopes that the girl won't sell him this sweater too. The guys reach the reception, where the girl informs the hero that all the materials are located right here. The panda lover tells the guy that today you can get a panda, which he is certainly very happy about. He asks if he can go and choose it. The girl reports that the guy came too late and there is only one panda left. The panda is a little problematic and the hero thinks he has been left in the cold. The guys walk through the panda breeding base, watching the beautiful views. On the way, they meet many calmly resting and relaxing pandas. John is touched by this and thinks that they are really very passive, as he imagined. The girl interrupts the hero's thoughts and says that the adults are very calm this season, but the little ones are a little more lively. The guy looks with delight at the little panda he meets on the way. She looks at the guys with disbelief, not yet understanding what awaits her. The guys go down the stairs closer to the panda. At the same time, the hero says that the panda looks pretty normal. Unexpectedly for everyone, the animal hits the tree with its head, and then the guy takes his words back. The little panda does a somersault and lands on the ground. The girl tells John that the birth of this creature was not easy, therefore it is physically weaker than others. It has not yet managed to awaken its abilities. The later an animal awakens its power, the less inclined it is to master any skill. It is not particularly talented, so it kept itself apart from the rest. All these factors influence the formation of his temperament. The girl explains that pandas are generally not very conflicted. What he did now, namely hitting his head on a tree, is training physical strength. This panda is very disciplined and constantly trains to awaken his strength as soon as possible. This is a special case, because the panda has a dream and is not lazy. The guy admires the beast, says that he is very hardworking and purposeful, although he does not have any talents. The girl tries to calm John down, saying that the panda is just developing slower than the others, and you can work with him. A panda lover says that such a diligent animal of this species is very rare. The attendant also says that this panda has a very poor sleep pattern and does not eat well. In order to start training, you must first correct this. No matter what, John agrees to take the animal with him. He believes that diligence and character are what is needed. because he does not want a passive animal who will only eat and sleep. The girl clarifies whether he is sure, because talent is very important for beast lords. The guy is not outraged, because he is very admired by such dedication and hard work. He thinks that they can become friends, after which he asks if there will be a discount. The girl explains that they treat all their caretakers equally, so there will be no discount, but on top of that, she will give the hero a month's supply of bamboo. The guy is very happy about this news and thanks her. The girl approaches the panda, talking about him being taken away, and asks if he is happy. With the help of his telepathy talent, John understands that the panda is saying that he will never become a slave, and that he himself will become stronger. She shouts that pandas are not afraid of anything and they do not need overlords. The girl calmly takes the animal in her arms, and the guy, looking from the side, understands that it definitely has character. The panda lover talks to the beast, explaining that if he tries to escape, he will have nothing to eat, and the master of the beasts will help him become stronger, and the issue with the unawakened power will be resolved. She also says that living conditions are more comfortable there. There is a lot of tasty food, everything for a happy life. The panda agrees to this, telling the guy that he has no shelter and food. John looks at his new beast and thinks that he will definitely provide it with this, but when the money appears, the panda rejoices at this and tells the main character that pandas will never be slaves unless they provide housing and food. The girl is glad that everything is fine and the panda is in good hands. John looks at his beast and thinks that once he becomes a great master of beasts, he will have everything he wants. The panda looks at the guy friendly. The hero must be sure that his animal will also work hard. John asks the girl if they can sign the contract now. She tells him to go and she will take care of the rest. The guy begins to cast a spell and thinks that the other overlords were not interested in this panda because she had no talent, but he has a different opinion about this. Deficiencies in talent can be corrected in the space of the Beastmaster. There have already been such cases. The panda's talent is now many times better because she has perseverance and hard work. She just wants to be recognized. During John's witchcraft, the girl calms the beast and asks him not to resist. The guy is sure that the panda, which all his relatives and overlords disdained, will definitely become stronger with him. The hero hopes that the animal will have a better future. John says that he is more tired than he expected, as if all the juice had been squeezed out of him. He suddenly feels some kind of heat, but quickly realizes that it is due to his acquired instant recovery ability. The girl congratulates the main character on concluding a contract with the panda, but advises him to first let her get comfortable in the space and not call her too often. She says that if the panda can quickly get used to the prevailing atmosphere in the space, then its abilities should awaken within a week. John sees that the directory now records the discovery of a new contact with a pet. The physical characteristics of the Beastmaster have been improved, and now more skills can be recorded. The hero understands that he will be able to use part of the power of his pets, which is why the girl managed to suppress the panda. Although the animal is weak, it will still be able to offer the guy something. The panda lover excitedly asks John if he is okay. He replies that everything is fine, it's just that his body has undergone 2 drastic changes. She reassures him, saying that at first everything will be unusual, but then it will become the norm. Returning to her duties, the girl informs him that he needs to fill out documentation and explains how to feed the panda. The girl also says that when supplies run out, John can always come to her for a new portion, but this, of course, will no longer be free. The guy says that he has one more small request, and the girl looks at him with incomprehension. John asks if he can come to the panda breeding base in order to raise his animal properly. He wants to know more about the natural habitat. The girl replies that he can do this and take the panda with him. After all, this is his home. But the food still won't be free, and the guy thinks that nothing will work out just like that, but he could get the ability. The guy feeds his panda and thinks that he needs to quickly return home and teach his animal a skill. Back home, John inspects the space in his house and thinks it would be a good training ground. The guy calls his panda and asks him to help him clean up. The panda appears in the backyard of the house and walks friendly towards the hero. John strokes his pet, and he, in turn, smiles contentedly and does not resist it. The hero is touched by this and decides that he doesn't need help. He will clean everything up himself. The guy, sitting opposite his panda, tells his pet that he is now teaching him the hardening skill inherent in pandas. the beast manages to awaken the ability of hardening the first time. The guy is very happy about this, thinking that in order to awaken her, the beast just needed to sleep well. He strokes her, saying that the girl from the animal breeding base convinced him that it would take a week, but thanks to the function of space, the ability to grow and develop, everything went incredibly quickly. John invites the pet to go clean up the yard because that's what he called him for in the first place. He doesn't understand what we're talking about and looks at the hero in bewilderment. The guy gets upset and says that he probably needs to try to train the panda again. John opens his book and explains that it will take at least about a month of intense training to take a skill from beginner to advanced. If you use the skill training guide, it will take several days to reach this level. Since this is a very energy-intensive process, the guy decides to test it on the green silkworm's most useless skill. Unfortunately, John doesn't succeed because this skill is incompatible with pandas. The guy is looking for where he can find someone to test this skill on. Suddenly, he notices a green silkworm on a branch and realizes that he needs to catch it as soon as possible. John points out to the panda that he needs to catch him. He says that he needs to be serious, because this is the first battle after awakening his abilities. The panda looks purposefully towards the target he needs. The animal rushes towards the tree where the green silkworm sits. It quickly gets to its target, confident in its movements and actions. The panda swings and takes away the green silkworm sitting calmly on a branch. John is happy that his pet succeeded and praises him. The beast releases the silkworm from its clutches onto the ground, and he and John stand ominously over the small insect. The guy only has one chance to teach him a new skill. He can't miss out on such a great example. The hero pounces on the silkworm and covers it with his hands, fearing that it will run away, and the panda sits on the ground and looks at the guy's actions in bewilderment. John is holding a small insect in his hands, and his pet is standing behind him and watching with interest what is happening. The silkworm shoots a stream of silk at the guy to protect himself from the attack. It's not so easy to escape from the guy because he spent 3 months on an internship and knows how to catch silkworms best of all. John talks to the insect and asks him to be calm, threatening that he will feed it to the panda. The animal is drooling. He hopes that it is edible because everything he loves in life is there. The hero sees that the silkworm can be taught a skill, thereby raising its performance. And then, the guy opens the manual and begins to teach the silkworm the necessary skills in order to see what happens. During the process of magic, the insect with all its appearance asks for help. It was not ready for this. John sees that the silkworm is exhausted by all this. The panda does not understand what is happening and stands with his mouth open. Suddenly, the guy feels tired and hungry. Despite his condition, he discovers something that catches his attention. The silkworm has another pattern on its back. The hero still doesn't know if everything went well. At this moment, the experience of using the multiplication skill in the silkworm's mind, he immediately felt stronger. Suddenly, the insect jumps out of John's hands, but he does not have time to react. The silkworm attacks, wrapping the tenacious material tightly around his arms. John notices that the silk threads are much stronger and stronger than last time. The main character breaks the threads with his hands. The silkworm cannot inflict enough damage on John due to the difference in size and strength. The guy approaches the insect and tries to calm it down, saying that everything is fine. He doesn't know whether it is possible to say that his skill has increased to the level of a trained one. John thinks that the quality of the threads of this silkworm is the same as the quality of the threads of the silkworms raised in the base and fed on spiritual herbs. Perhaps the cultivation rank is different, but the skill level is definitely high. In addition to developing the skill level, it is necessary to increase the development rank. Perhaps the green silkworms have a deeper understanding of racial skills, which leads to an increase in their strength and the second awakening of the skill. When John teaches skills, he gives away some of the power, however. The guy is glad that the experiment was a success, as a result of which the consumption of physical energy is acceptable. Opening his reference book, the hero realizes that next time he will be able to train the animal only after 8 hours. This is quite normal because if he abuses animal skill training, then his body will be exhausted. If he wants to use the capabilities of this reference book, then he needs to become stronger. John examines the silkworm in the cage and continues to think about what he learned today. He knows how long it will take him to teach his pet more serious skills. The guy suggests that perhaps there are some products for accelerated recovery. Perhaps you won't have to wait for the skill to reboot. Since there are special drugs for animals, then there should also be for overlords. The main character tells the panda that he will cook chopped pork with young bamboo shoots and white rice for dinner. John invites the pet to rest while he prepares dinner, and when everything is ready, he will call the animal to the table. The animal wonders how it can rest when it has finally awakened its ability. Panda tells John that he is already far behind his peers and wants to train right now. The guy's pet goes berserk. The girl from the base was definitely right when she said that he has some problems. The hero allows the panda to practice in the yard himself, which he is certainly very happy about. The guy warns the beast that the backyard of his house does not yet have the equipment necessary for training. John suggests practicing activating, holding, and blocking the hardening. He tells the pet to try to hone the skill and also use it on a specific part of his body. Panda agrees and says that he will do everything John asked. The guy knows that the panda again wants to bang his head not against a tree, but against a wall. She just came here, but already wants to destroy everything. Discipline is good, but everything should be a little different, so the hero needs to find a way to earn money to buy the necessary equipment. John can breed green silkworms, and if the quality of the silk they produce is high enough, then the products made from it can be sold at a good price, but you need to have time to combine work with the silkworm and the panda. The guy thinks that when his skill level increases, the quality of the silk will be even better, and then a bunch of silk threads will be able to cover all the financial needs of the family. The hero is very tired. The panda also did a good job and is already fast asleep when John returns to his room. John knows that the pet does not like to eat before training, but even after eating, it continues to work hard. While the panda is sleeping sweetly, the guy promises the panda that he will never leave him, no matter what. The main character returns the animal to the space of the master of beasts. Lying in bed, John realizes that he has never slept cuddling with a panda and regrets sending him into his space. In the morning, the green silkworm shoots its silk web and picks up green leaves from the ground into its cage. While no one is there, the insect has breakfast with fresh and sweet leaves. Suddenly, John abruptly comes out of the house, shouting throughout the yard, which greatly frightens the silkworm. The guy opens his reference book and sees that the recovery time has passed, and now he can successfully teach skills. Today, the hero plans to teach his pet the hardening skill, but before that, he wants to check something. John tells his pet that he needs to go shopping, and then he will return for the animal and release it. The guy good-naturedly approaches the cage with the green silkworm, remembering that he forgot to say hello and waves his hand. John notices that the insect used its skill to reach the leaves. While going shopping, the guy thinks about his new friend, because he is also a little strange. Other silkworms strive to eat as many nutritious plants as possible in order to grow and develop, but this one doesn't care. He just eats leaves and doesn't care about anything. The guy decides that on the way home, he will pick more leaves to diversify the diet of his silkworm. Unfortunately, John cannot afford spiritual herbs, but other plants must also have a lot of nutrients. He will not allow someone who will produce excellent silk for him in the future to starve. Going out onto a busy street, the hero notices that everything there has changed a lot. He notices a man riding a cart pulled by snow wolves. The guy looks at this with his mouth open, thinking that this is good concern for the environment, even though the animals are used for other purposes. John turns around and sees a cat running towards him. The cat runs away from its owner, who runs after her and asks her to stop. The guy looks at them in bewilderment. Pets are usually more disciplined. Cats like the one the guy met usually don't get contracts. The pupil ability of a gem cat can be activated by various gems, with the help of which they evolve, but now the prices for gems are much higher than the prices for the cats themselves. Without a gem, a cat can only be a simple pet, but a cat with an activated ability is an excellent fighter. Finally, John reaches his desired store with tonic drinks. A nice salesgirl asks the guy if he needs help finding what he came for. The hero asks if he can sell silk in this store, to which the girl replies that there are certain nutritional requirements for the silkworm that produces silk. Once they are convinced of the high quality of the silk, they will be able to take it for sale. The girl hands over the booklet saying that everything is written in it about the topic that interests the guy. John sees the prices for silk in the booklet and understands that he can earn a lot of money from this and live comfortably, and also promises himself that if he does not become a master of the beasts within a year, he will go to work at the base to support the development of the panda. Selling silk is the right thing to do. You just need to bring the quality of the material produced to the ideal, and then the guy will be able to cover all the costs of training and developing the panda. The seller clarifies whether John wants to sell silk, to which he replies that not yet, and asks to break 2 bottles of tonic. A guy comes out of a store with a huge package, holding a heavy bag on his shoulder. John understands that living without a phone is quite problematic, because he couldn't even pay for a bus ticket. He decides that as soon as he has money, he will definitely buy himself a phone. Arriving home, the guy puts all his purchases on the table. The first thing he bought were capsules of the spirits of light. They are made from different varieties of plants that are beneficial to living beings. These capsules eliminate fatigue and strengthen the body. They allow a person to bounce back and feel invigorated. They are said to be quite effective. Many beast masters like to use them after a battle. John cannot afford to eat these capsules like candy, but with this drug he will be able to minimize the stress on his body when training animals. The guy waves his hands and calls his pet for training. The panda appears in front of the guy. She looks much more cheerful than the last time they saw each other. The pet is motivated to exercise, he wants to go to training, and the training will last 6 hours. John stops the panda and reminds him that there must be a balance between work and rest. The beast absorbs a lot of energy from the master's space. Most of it is John's energy. The guy reasons that he needs to think about improving the space, but on the other hand, he should use the directory. John restores his strength with the help of absolute sleep, which he will teach the panda now, but for now he suggests practicing the hardening skill. The main character touches the panda's head and calls for a reference book in order to begin training. The green silkworm looks at all this from the outside. He does not understand what will happen now. The guy is very exhausted when training his pet. It is much more difficult for him than training a silkworm. John thought he was going to faint from fatigue, but he has a tonic he bought this morning. He drinks 1 capsule and immediately feels relief. He feels much better than before. The hero pays attention to the panda and looks in his direction with a little fear. The animal glows and smiles at the guy. Confidence is visible in his eyes. Suddenly, the panda raises his fist up and uses the solidification ability in his paw. Suddenly, she swings with all her might and smashes the asphalt into crumbs. John is shocked by what he sees. He does not understand how this happened and why the panda did it. The beast himself was very surprised by his abilities. He suddenly became very strong. The hero explains to his pet that his hardening skill is at the level of a trained one, and that after this, the strength will double. Panda is very happy about this because at the base he could not achieve such results even with hard training. John asks his pet if he still wants to start training. The beast says that he did nothing to improve his abilities. This is contrary to nature. The suddenly increased level of skill makes him feel obligated and dissatisfied with himself. Then the guy tells the panda to return all his abilities because all this is thanks to his energy. The animal resists this and refuses, offering to leave everything as it is. Even if this level of skill is not the merit of the beast, he knows how to compensate for it. As punishment, the panda offers to train for 24 hours and not sleep at night, and John does not understand how he can be so disciplined. The guy agrees to a 24-hour training. He says that this is not just training, but training to death. The panda is training hard while the hero sits on the porch of the house and thinks, holding a reference book in his hands. Although the stamina consumption is approximately the same, the recovery time this time is much longer, namely a day. The pet's skill has reached a trained level. It has become much more resilient and has better control over what is happening. The panda can now activate the hardening ability for half a minute, and the skill's cancel speed has also increased. Now the main thing is to increase the speed of using the skill and at the same time, learn to harden a specific part of the body. If the panda masters this, then in battle he will have both offensive weapons and defense. While the animal is training, John thinks that this house and site are too fragile and will not withstand such an onslaught. For further hardening training, special equipment is required. The guy believes that the panda is really training hard, and the energy consumption in the Beastmaster space has also increased. Strength determines control over the beast in the master's space. This is important for those Beastmasters who raise wild, strong beasts. Volume, namely how many pets an overlord can enter into a contract with, is an important point for those overlords who prefer fighting in groups. The environment determines the efficiency of nutrition, growth, and development of combat skills. The better the environment, the faster the pet grows. The hero walks down the street and continues to think about space. The environment is most important to him. John concludes that creating a favorable environment for the panda to grow and develop is a priority. When absolute sleep appears in the guy's space, the panda will be able to train as much as he wants without putting stress on his body. Then all he can do is eat well. The hero continues on his way. He is worried that he will not have enough money to buy food for the panda. He is sure that it is worth it for his little panda to grow and develop. John sits on the floor and casts a spell, holding a glass in his hands. The transformation of space is almost complete. After the transformation is completed, the panda will live in a renovated house. The pet is still as productive and disciplined as always. Tomorrow, John plans to train on the intensity of hardening. The next day in the morning, someone knocks on the door of the house, and the main character runs to the door. It turned out that it was a courier who brought steel plates. The guy sees off the couriers and loaders, waving his hand at them. John calls the panda to test the new steel plates. John feels something strange. Before, when he summoned his pet, this did not happen. The panda appears in front of him wearing a red scarf around his neck. This is the fourth awakening transformation. The guy smiles and looks at his beast happily. Improving the environment was a good idea. Now she is one step closer to becoming a professional beast master. The main character is happy about what happened and promises to give the panda a good festive dinner. John tells his pet that he bought new equipment for their training, because during their training the panda cannot break everything around him that he wants. Suddenly the animal turns around and the guy asks if he wants John to hit him with something harder. The hero shows the panda the plates he bought and says that now the panda can fight about them as much as he wants because he does not allow the yard to be destroyed. The guy talks about how the pet can put these plates in several layers if he thinks that the training is not effective enough. John also talks about how the planet can also help with gravity, so the panda can jump from a tree. The main character points his finger at the roof of the house and says that this could be an alternative to wood. The guy hits his palm with his fist and says that the panda needs to use the hardening skill and jump. John calls this drop training. It is more effective than hitting a panda with a club. When the animal can jump from the heights of the clouds and remain intact, then the food will be equal. The pet hugs the owner's leg and says that John is a genius because the panda himself could never have thought of this. A green silkworm sits calmly and eats leaves in its cage. Suddenly something greatly frightens him, and there can no longer be any food in his thoughts. The panda flies at great speed into the metal plate, hitting them with his hand with a loud crash and incredible force. The slab breaks in half, and the beast stands as if nothing had happened. He is very pleased with himself. At some point, the panda notices a scratch on his paw. This should not have happened. The animal uses the speed healing skill, and now everything becomes as before. The panda takes another metal plate and continues his training. John sits inside the house and listens to the rumble coming from the yard. The panda's tempering skill has already reached the expert level. The guy thinks these platinums are a great help in hardening training. It is also a great food for pandas as they are able to digest iron. The silkworm's skills have also increased greatly. The strength of its threads can be compared to the strength of fishing line. The green silkworm is happy with its life. Its improvement has a great future. Thanks to the purchased medications, John actively trained both the panda and the silkworm for 10 days. Every time after using the reference book, the hero feels tired, but as soon as he refreshes himself, he feels better. Fatigue is very similar to fatigue after physical activity. The pet has awakened 5 times and can now temper any part of the body at will. The silkworm reached the trained level and awakened 4 times. John decided it was time to evaluate the results. The guy runs out of the house and shouts to the panda to finish training, eat well after lunch, and rest, because they are going to fight for real. The panda bends part of the slab he broke. He cannot believe that the time has come for a real battle. For a pet to grow and develop, certain conditions are necessary, namely nutrition, training, and battles. For John and the beast, what is important now is not deadly training, but a battle with an equal opponent with certain rules and in a good place. The guy and the panda will not be able to go to establishments that do not inspire confidence and where animals can be harmed. With the directory, there is an excellent opportunity to constantly develop. To become a professional beast master, in addition to the general and practical certification, you must also pass the field survival exam. Previously, John did not particularly care about this, but now he needs experience in this area. The guy decides to take part in competitions organized by the Association of Beastmasters. It is better to turn to professionals. The hero enters a huge room. He approaches the information desk and asks to explain to him how battles work. The girl begins to tell that their arena provides platforms for battles. You can choose either a specific battle, which involves a battle agreed upon with your opponent. In order to take part in a random battle, you must provide basic information, and then the organization will randomly select an opponent. Opponents in random battles are matched to the pet's level. After everything has been said, the girl says the amount needed to pay for the person, which the guy is very surprised by. John is indignant because it is very expensive, and he himself could eat for 3 days with this money. The girl explains that the price includes all maintenance areas and medical expenses, so this is a standard price, and in some places it can be even more expensive. And then she remembers that there are bets. The losing side pays all expenses for using the site not only for itself, but also for the winner. John is happy about this because if he and the panda win, they won't have to pay anything. The guy quickly selects the level he needs and places a bet. The hero is confident that even if the enemy is a top-level beast, they will not lose. The girl pushes a piece of paper with a pen towards the guy and asks him to fill out the form. John, maddened by the desire to make as much money as possible, asks if there is any way to place more bets in order to take advantage of all the opportunities. The girl replies that this is not within the scope of their organization. She hands the hero a piece of paper with a number and asks him to wait in the hall. As soon as the enemy is selected, John's name will be displayed on the screen. The hero steps aside. A blue-haired guy stood next to him, also signing a form to participate in the battle. This guy steps aside with his ice crocodile. They are carrying many boxes in their hands. He believes that his classmates are too weak to even slightly doubt the outcome of the battle. The guy says that he is the best and will never lose. After some time, John is called to the battleground at number 11. The blue-haired guy is also called to the site under the same number. John approaches the desired site. It seems to him that this will be a home game. He stands at the entrance, thinking that the pet number is the same as the site number, so the game should be simple. A blue-haired guy appears behind the main character, heading to the battle. They look at each other and each one asks in his head whether he is my opponent. The site is ready. The stands are full of people. Everyone is waiting for the battle to begin. A man in a yellow cap comes out onto the site and announces that he is the manager and judge of this fight. 2 guys stand opposite each other, looking at their opponent in disbelief when the judge says they have no more than an hour to fight. The guy in the yellow cap says that the opponents can start fighting at any time. The rivals are ready to start the battle right now. John begins to cast magic. He is confident in his actions and does not want to lose. The main character calls upon his space as the master of beasts, and a circle with the image of a panda lights up near his hand. After this, a spinning ball appears with John's pet trapped in it. The panda appears in front of the guy and stands in full confidence that he will not lose. The other guy also activates his mojo, crossing his arms in front of him. He calls upon his Beastmaster space, and a circle with an image of an ice crocodile lights up behind him. Out of nowhere, a block of ice appears containing the blue-haired guy's pet. An icy armored beast appears in front of him, just like the panda, ready to fight. People in the hall are watching what is happening on the fighting area. They point their fingers at the screens and say that this is another rookie fight. A girl from the crowd tells her friend to look at the screen. There will be a fight there now. A lady in a suit similar to the one the blue-haired guy is wearing recognizes him as Edward. She says that this is her classmate and he is incredibly strong. Her friend asks who is stronger of the two. The Beastmaster says that it's hard to compare, but in the whole class there are only a couple of people who could compete with him. The girl next to her points out that John also has a panda beast like her. Edward's classmate, based on her experience raising a panda, bets that the main character will lose. She chose the panda just because they are cute. If she had the opportunity to choose another animal, then she would definitely agree, because this animal is incredibly lazy and cannot be forced to train. The blue-haired guy shouts the name of the technique to his pet so that he does what he trained before the fight. The ice-armored crocodile immediately rushes forward, attacking the panda. The judge watches everything that is happening and says that the start is good, the pet is well trained, and this is worthy of a student from a leading school. John puts his hand forward and shouts a command for the animal to carry out. The panda uses his solidification ability, blocking the area in front of him. Icy claws cut into the panda's iron-hard paws. The ice-armored crocodile's claws break on the panda's iron armor, and the crocodile flies back and falls, screaming and crying in pain. The panda stands in the pose of a winner. He is happy with his first small victory, pleased with himself. Edward is shocked by what is happening. He does not understand how the ice claw could not withstand it. John stands full of confidence and shouts to the panda to attack his opponent. The panda immediately jumps up and flies towards the ice-armored beast. Edward panics and shouts to his pet to quickly use the ice armor. The ice-armored beast immediately uses its skill to quickly defend itself from the panda's attack. John's beast's iron hand slams into the ice armor, striking hard with incredible force. The ice beast's armor breaks into small pieces, and the crocodile is horrified by this. Edward's animal flies away under the pressure of the imperturbable panda. An ice-armored crocodile flies into the wall. Its owner stands in shock at what is happening. Edward doesn't understand how this could happen, how his pet could lose. John is happy about the victory and thinks that if he had known that the panda would perform so well, he would not have fed him to boost his morale. He did not expect that the battle would end so quickly. In order to really evaluate the fighting forces, he needed to find a more capable opponent. The judge doesn't believe in the panda's strength and his hardening skill because it's just a small level 5 animal. The girl, looking at the battle from the side, also cannot believe her eyes. It turns out that pandas are capable of mastering the skill at such a high level. A classmate thinks that John is very talented. She doubts that he is a beginner. She hopes that her classmate can handle defeat with dignity. Edward is very worried about losing, and now thinks that he belongs at school. The panda happily waves and smiles at everyone, and says to himself that none of those present got up at 4 in the morning to beat steel plates. The judge waves his hand and says that the ice beast is no longer able to fight, so John is declared the winner. The hero sends his pet into the space of the beast lords. Edward asks the winner if he is a student at the school to make sure his opponent was just lucky. John replies that he graduated from university and practiced raising animals at the base. The level of education in the suburbs where the protagonist studied is not as high as in the city, but nevertheless John defeats him, and Edward cannot understand this. The blue-haired guy thinks that his opponent is the most outstanding beastmaster he has seen, so he needs to try his best. Edward does not understand why John has already graduated, because there is still a whole month before his graduation. The judge tells him that such conditions are for graduates of combat specialties. For everyone else, this happens earlier. At this moment, the guy understands that his opponent is not even a graduate of the combat specialty. The judge asks if his pet needs medical attention and asks him to pay double the loss fee. John is quarreling with the girl at the reception. He wants to choose an opponent of a higher level. The girl explains that not everyone wants to fight an opponent below their level. She offers to provide the arena if the hero has a friend who will be willing to fight him. John has no friends at all, not to mention that anyone else would want to fight him. He says that he is going to the association and says goodbye to the girl at the reception. The Association of Beastmasters can give and pay for tasks. Carefully selecting tasks for trainees, they are aimed at earning experience. Money is not a priority for John now. The main thing is to find a suitable opponent for training. If this is not found, you can look for other buildings that are suitable for training. Given the condition of the panda, the space for improving skills cannot be limited only to the house. The main character thinks that if you do the same thing every day, you can go crazy. After the battle, it was clear how happy the pet was, so his owner just had to find new training for him. John finds a mission to catch stray cats. They have created a large gang of thieves. If we take into account the fact that supernatural beings have intelligence, then the groups are quite real, but it is not clear what they are stealing. The guy understands that this task is not suitable for his pet, so he continues his search. There are a lot of tasks, but none of them are suitable for a panda. All missions are placed by people who want to hire beastmasters for a low price for some unnecessary work. The task of catching locusts seems suitable to John. The time of this mission is not limited. They probably need constant supplies. But when faced with a fast and dexterous opponent, the panda's speed may not be enough, in which case the owner should teach him the skill of supervision. The enormous strength of the Iron Eater combined with supervision will be a huge plus. Combat effectiveness should increase. John finds a mission to catch mice, but its combat power is very small, so even a man can cope with it. The main problem is that they reproduce, move, and associate quickly, so it is difficult to determine how dangerous they are. This is also a long-term mission, which is issued to several Beastmasters at once. It can be used to train reflexes. The panda's speed should increase. John decides to postpone hardening training for now. Unexpectedly, he notices Edward, with whom he had recently fought. The hero waves happily at him and asks if his ice beast has recovered. The guy is very worried and tells John that everything is fine, to which he asks if Edward also came to this place for errands. The blue-haired guy confirms the hero's guesses by asking what task John took on, suggesting that most likely it is some kind of highly paid task. John shows his task, and Edward is very surprised by this and asks if the hero is going alone. The blue-haired guy explains that for this mission, it would be better to form a team because these animals are very cunning, so it will be much easier to work as a team. Edward very persistently offers to join John's team. The main character tries to get out of it, saying that it makes no difference if he joins, but the blue-haired guy finds a way out of this situation and offers to call 2 more people for this mission. John agrees to help the enemy he defeated because if the rats unite, then this task will not be easy for him. Edward says he will contact 2 of his classmates tonight and then they will have a team of 4. It turns out that the blue-haired guy wants to get closer to John in order to learn more about his training and understand how he managed to turn a lazy panda into a real fighter. The main character comes to the tonic drink store again. The saleswoman thinks that this guy comes for the 3rd time in 2 weeks. John says that there is more and more training and fighting, and he has had poor health since childhood. The salesgirl puts on the table the supplements that the guy usually buys. John and the panda eat with pleasure. The guy eats the food he prepared, and his pet eats sweet bamboo. Suddenly, the guy turns and asks the beast to come. He wants to teach him a new skill. Panda is upset about this because he believes that strength depends only on his efforts. For some reason, he cannot utter a word. The guy teaches the panda the skill of ultravision. The sharpness of the eye will increase several times, and he will be able to see even at night. The panda will be able to activate it by spending spiritual power. The beast rubs his eyes with a smile on his face, and John is very tired from training the panda. The panda curiously leaves the house to test his new skill. The beast sees everything very clearly in the dark, just like during the day, which he is very happy about. Now it will be much more convenient for the panda to train at night. He will be able to compensate for the lack of diligence in training during the day. It now takes 48 hours to restore spiritual strength. John hopes that the pet will not break the steel tile tonight, because he needs a good night's sleep. Edward sits in his room and drinks tea while writing in the group chat with an offer to go catch mice with him. Suddenly, his classmate writes to the guy, saying that she recently saw him in the arena, where he lost. Edward spits out his tea in surprise. The blue-haired guy is very worried because now all his classmates will know about his loss to the first person he meets. When meeting, Edward asks the main character if he got enough sleep because he saw that he was yawning. John asks where his friends are, to which the blue-haired guy says that they will probably come up soon. Suddenly, Edward's classmate and her friend appear in front of them. They greet the guys. The guy introduces the girls. This is Kate, his classmate. And this is her friend, the mistress of the animals of their experimental school, Mary. John smiles at the girls, waves, and says hello to them. The girls greet him in unison and call him an expert, and he in turn does not understand why they called him that. In John's ear, the blue-haired guy explains that yesterday they passed by the arena and saw their battle. Edward invites everyone to introduce themselves and starts first. His pet is an ice-shelled beast of the 6th level. It can make a roar that breaks ice and has ice armor. Kate continues. Her pet is a level 6 panda that has an entry-level hardening skill. Mary also talks about herself. Her pet is a level 6 thorn beast. It has an excellent binding skill. And finally, John talks about himself. His pet, a level 5 panda, has the skill of hardening at a deeply studied level. All 3 guys strongly doubt the sincerity of the protagonist's words. John just smiles and thinks that once they see what the 11th is capable of, then everyone will immediately understand. Edward asks the main character what specialty he studied in since he has already graduated. John reveals that he specializes in cultivation because fighting is for brutes, and not everyone can master such a skill, and for a beast master who specializes in cultivation, it is quite expected to master the hardening skill at this level. Upon reaching their destination, the boys are greeted by a crowd of people waving and welcoming them to exterminate the village's rodents. One person from the crowd gives the 4 graduates specialized clothing. The guys change clothes and then remain in the middle of the field and do not understand where to start. John suggests summoning pets while thinking that in such an environment the ultravision skill will be useful. Mary and Edward summon their pets, namely the ice shell beast and the thorn beast. John and Kate also call on their animals, to be more precise, 2 pandas. Panda Kate is many times larger than 11. She looks at him with interest. Kate asks the main character if he also uses steel bamboo as the basis for his panda's food. Because his panda looks beautiful, both in color and in body, it is clear that she is absolutely healthy. The pink-haired girl reveals that there is a bamboo martial arts palace where panda beastmasters are trained. The palace manager is a top-level beastmaster, and his panda also has the power of lightning and flame. Kate says that she considered John to be a student of this center because his panda had achieved a high level of solidification, which is given to few. The girl's panda with pink hair falls asleep while the guys talk about the owner of the panda breeding center. 11th interrupts the guys, shouting that he found a mouse. John and his pet simultaneously point to the exact location of the target. Edward looks in that direction with the help of a special device and says that, judging by the size of the mouse, it is on the 4th level, and it is also completely alone, so it must be destroyed before it discovers the guys and runs away. Mary says that mice have good vigilance, so if other pets get close to the mouse, she will see them. So she tells her animal to get closer to the target. Maybe he can wrap himself around her body. The thorn beast goes to the mouse, which immediately stops eating and pays attention to it. Mary's pet tries to catch the target, but she does not give in and tries with all her might to escape from the tenacious clutches of the beast. An icy armored crocodile stands in the way of the mouse, blocking its path. The red rat jumps high and flies over the ice crocodile, continuing its escape. Further on her way, she encounters something new, which makes her very afraid. It turns out that this is John's panda. He uses the hardening skill and tramples the poor mouse into the ground with all his might. At this moment, Mary's pet grabs the rat so that it cannot escape anywhere. The guys admire the panda's strength and compare its strength to a high-rise structure. The graduates bring a rat to the main person at this event. He, in response, asks to catch a flock of rats. Since they managed to catch one, Mary praises John, because if not for him, the target would definitely have been able to escape. John invites the guys to split up because he needs to catch as many mice as possible to earn money. Edward agrees, because this way they can increase the rate of destruction of rats. They agree to meet at noon at the same place. The blue-haired guy clarifies that if someone meets one mouse, then you can deal with it as you wish, and if there is a flock, then the guys will call the rest, because it's more efficient to work this way. Mary challenges her friend to catch more mice than the others, but Kate replies that her panda probably won't be able to catch that many mice. The girl with pink hair thinks that Jonah the panda and her pet are completely different animals. The main character tells his animal that their goal is to catch 20 mice before lunch, but the panda is very self-confident and wants to catch 200. John says that he doesn't care how many they catch. The main thing is that the 11th does not spoil the crops and fruit trees. If a panda breaks something, not only will they not be paid, but they will be forced to pay compensation, and then they will have to cut costs on feeding the animal. John asks not to use panda hardening, because the main thing today is to train speed and reactions. 11 immediately gets to work, quickly collecting mouse after mouse. The main person at the site is surprised at such abilities. He can't even believe that this is really a panda. The panda is indignant that the owner did not teach her the skill of invisibility, so he could catch mice much faster. The man, who is writing down how many rats he has caught, asks him to catch them more slowly, so he does not have time to write down. Many people appear near John. 2 hours have already passed, and the panda does not stop working. The guy reassures people that his animal, in addition to eating, also likes to practice. Edward sees that John's panda catches one mouse every 5 minutes and does not understand how much strength the guy has, even if his panda does not get tired. The hero shows the blue-haired guy a tonic capsule, thereby explaining everything. Edward realized that even though others have better abilities, no one is dedicated to the task as much as John, which is why everyone loses to him. The main character asks the guys how many mice they caught. Edward caught 7, Mary 6. Kate looks at the others upset and complains about her pet, calling pandas stupid. 11 doesn't like that she treats all pandas with the same brush. A man collecting mice praises the panda. He has never seen such a useful pet. He caught 22 mice in 2 hours. John takes out the long-awaited food and invites the guys to eat together. The graduates sit down to have a snack while the panda continues to circle and catch mice. While John is eating food on both cheeks, Kate tells him that pandas are not so active and this is not normal. She chose an animal for a very long time, but did not find one as energetic as John's. Without sticking his nose out of his plate, the hero asks the girl how else a panda could master the skill of hardening at a deeply studied level. The guys took a break from eating and agreed with John that they thought it was reasonable. The main character tells the guys how everything really is, when suddenly Edward jumps up and shouts that now he, too, will work with his pet with great persistence. Mary agrees with him. She says that tomorrow she will go to the pharmacy, buy a tonic, and work with her beast day and night. Edward learned the secret of John's training, and now he will try it on himself. He is sure that he will succeed. The blue-haired guy asks the main character if he will participate in the certification of beast lords, and since his specialty is cultivation, will he take the exam to become a cultivation mentor? John says that despite the cultivation specialty, he wants to take the warrior specialty. Edward thinks that in order to pass the certification, it is necessary that the pets have unprecedented combat abilities. It will be very difficult for their pets to reach level 10 in 6 months, so it is better to participate another time. John says that if he doesn't pass the test this time, then next time they could go together. The guys are surprised by what was said, because it is unlikely that he will be able to reach the desired level in 6 months. John doesn't care how many difficulties they face in order to move to the superiority level, but moving to the 10th level will not be a problem. If the main character fails to reach the desired level, then he can take a workaround. Guys, let me know if John is talking about that special certification where you can skip levels. Edward thinks that the main character thinks much further than him, so he definitely lost. He needs to increase the intensity of training for his pet. At a certain moment, all four hear some strange sound. Suddenly, the loudspeaker starts screaming about the approach of wild animals. People run away in horror wherever they look. The number of wild animals behind the wall increases. Edward and Mary are shocked by what is happening. They did not expect that this could happen. The mouse inspector reports that the situation is very dangerous and asks the guys to return as a lady as soon as possible. Edward asks what this signal means. The man is not sure, because this is his first time encountering this. Perhaps the animals from the snowy mountains are unhappy again, but the signal is very serious. John tries to soberly assess the situation from the outside, thinking that it is not time to panic because a large wall has been erected around the villages. People from the Association of Beastmasters work in the urban area. They are their main protection. Perhaps there is no real danger. And if the animals really could break through the wall, then there would clearly be something more serious than such a warning. Edward offers to go have a look, but Kate refuses in every possible way because her pet is very weak to fight. John says that it would be best to leave. They can come here again to catch rodents. It is more important to go to the association and find out what this signal means. The man at the reception replies that he doesn't really know about this signal, but this is not the first time in the last month. Previously, there was a blue warning twice, and now it's yellow. Another person appears out of nowhere. He greets Kate and Edward. This is their teacher, Daniel. It turns out that he was nearby, saw the guys' correspondence in the chat, and decided to come take a look. John looks at everything from the outside and does not understand why these two communicate in a chat where there is a teacher. Daniel asks who the other guys are. Edward replies that they are his friends from other schools. The teacher clarifies whether the children's bewilderment is related to the warning, and they ask him to tell him more about it. Following the guys out, John thinks that staying in the suburbs is not safe, and he needs to go to the city with his pet. The guys and Daniel go out into the street, and he begins his story about the alarm. The area around the snowy mountains is well guarded. If danger really appears, the association will quickly react. If the forces are not enough, then they will call the regional beast masters. And if these forces are not enough, visitors from neighboring cities will join in. Edward worries that the animals might turn against people again, but Daniel reassures him that they are just a small pack of wild animals. John gets into the conversation and says that the urban area is better suited for animals, so they come here because of competition and the fight for food. Perhaps this is not the main reason, but the obsessions of animals are repeated more than once, and this is not as unexpected as it was 10 years ago. Daniel agrees with the main character, but the reason is still unknown. What made the animals go into conflict? This is an unsolved mystery. The teacher says that perhaps the answer is in the Ice City and asks the children if they know the story about it. The guys are looking forward to Daniel's story about the Ice City. Daniel says that one day an ice dragon flew in and froze all the mountains. The guys ask him who won. He says that most likely the tribe living in these mountains. There are remains of an ice dragon on the mountain. It is said that its bones are sealed inside. Perhaps that sealed dragon has turned into a spirit, and it is he who calls the doors on the snowy mountain. The guys are very scared when they hear about the existence of the dragon. This is what archaeologists managed to find. Perhaps the stone giant was the totem of that people. John suggests that with the help of it, the ancient lords fought the dragon. Someone tells the main character that everything was wrong. The guy is scared and does not understand whose voice it is. It seems to John that this is the voice of the stone statue near which the guys were just standing. The guy worries that he has gone crazy because the statue cannot talk. John is pulled out of his thoughts by Mary, who is worried about him. He tries to hide the truth by saying that the statue is very beautiful and that's why he was staring at it. Apparently, the guys didn't hear what John heard. He again plunges into his thoughts. The guy realizes that the voice definitely cannot come from the statue because it does not look like a living creature. John worries that the statue might have acquired a spirit and imagines himself running away from it. Daniel tells the guys that he still has work to do and it's time for him to go. The teacher leaves, asking the graduates not to worry, because in case of danger, the Beast Lords will be able to protect everyone. Edward invites the guys to continue catching mice, but John refuses. The main character also has something to do. He needs to go. One of the guys offers to have a snack, but John quickly leaves them. Edward realizes that he did not take contact from his new friend and will not be able to contact him in any way. Arriving home, John begins to study books. The history of the world is divided into eras of myths, totems, and beast lords. In the era of myths, according to legends, mythical creatures appeared who ruled this world. In the era of totems, people appeared. They tried to survive in territories owned by stronger creatures. In the era of the overlords, people began to tame animals. John downloads information about the alliance of overlords on the computer. The history of the world of animal masters is divided into 3 stages, but there are many gaps in it. John was very exhausted from searching for the information he needed. Unfortunately, he could not find what he needed. In a past life, the hero was an archaeologist, but for some reason he came across a mythical system, and since then he began to study mythology. Then the study of the mythical system together with his teacher became everyday life for him. He plunged headlong into research, but the mountain range collapsed and buried him alive. After an accident, John was placed in this body. The guy is disappointed by this and regrets that he didn't do something else because curiosity ruins people. Now the hero finds himself in a dangerous world. His only desire is to be in a comfortable and safe place. John decides that now he will live only for his own pleasure. Although there are many incomprehensible things in the history of this world, it has its own system and will no longer take the old path. At night, John returns to the statue, wanting to find out what is really going on. The hero asks him in a whisper if he spoke to him this afternoon. The guy clarifies whether he refuted what the man was saying. The statue is silent and does not answer. John threatens him with his departure. The hero does not know what the story really was, and this greatly fuels his interest. John really wants to know what the true story was. The guy shouts at the statue, asking him to tell him if he can find out the truth. Suddenly, the eyes of the statue begin to glow. The ground around shakes. John does not understand what is happening. The face of the sculpture cracks. Rays of light pour out of the cracks. John looks in horror towards the statue. Something happened. The sculpture has broken into small pieces. Dust and crumbs are all scattered in all directions, and a bright purple beam of light comes out from the center of the structure. John is very worried about what he did, because he came to the statue primarily out of curiosity. The guy runs away from the crime scene in fear. People are panicking. They think that animals have attacked the city. They don't understand why there is no news. People passing by try not to stress themselves out. Perhaps it's just social unrest. The secretary comes to the chairman's office and asks what happened. She says that other regions also sensed something was wrong. The chairman himself doesn't really know. If everything is as he thinks, then it's okay. John feeds his panda with fear so that he will grow up quickly and become stronger in order to protect the two of them. It seems that the 11th doesn't mind at all because he really loves to eat. The main character regrets destroying the statue and decides to stay home until he finds out what happened. John feeds not only the panda but also his second pet silkworm. The next day, the guy instructs his little insect to train with the panda. The silkworm's threads can be used as arrows, but so far it cannot even pierce clothing. Panda and John's little pet are training together. 11 is training his speed, and the silkworm is trying to shoot arrows. The main character supports his animals, and during their training, he goes out to get food. People are worried about the noise at night. No one knows what it was. The Overlords Association is closed today. John hopes that no one will look into the matter of the destroyed statue and that he will not be found. The chance is small because cameras are not installed in this world, and there was no one near him at that moment. John decides that until he finds out what's going on, he won't go anywhere, and the safest way will be to pretend to be a fool. The beam of light activated by it is a secret ancient space. Suddenly, a person says that he has already tried to unravel the mystery of the ice dragon's remains, but nothing worked. The information is still too little. They cannot find out the truth. Perhaps here they will learn something new. A gray-haired man tells an inquiring person that a stone statue has collapsed in the garden of the Beastmasters Association. It seems that this space appeared for a reason. Someone disturbed the scar of history. The girl doesn't understand. Perhaps some gifted person has appeared again, hearing the voice of history. She doesn't know who it is. 4 days later, the panda had experienced healing. Ultravision, hardening also moved to a new level. John really wants to see if the 11th soldier can defeat the enemy, being at the 5th level of awakening. The main character decides that he will continue to improve his animals, and while he is heading to the tonic drink store, the male salesman tells him that yesterday at a pharmacy in the south of the city, a student bought several boxes of tonic. The guy is very surprised by this news and suggests that Edward may have made this purchase. Suddenly, John decides to find out important information for himself. He pretends not to be involved in what happened and asks why the Association of Beastmasters was closed and whether they found out the reason for that strange rumble. The seller praises the guy. The details are not yet known to him, but he can say that it is very possible that their city will blow up. John raises an eyebrow and looks at the man with bewilderment, asking for more details. He says that there are rumors about the appearance of a secret space. He explains that it is something like another space that exists outside of their world. Their planet of the Beast Lords was also originally a secret space. There is a theory that when all the Beast Lords die, they will also turn into a secret space, but after the death of several powerful lords, their space can still be preserved. Something like a small world is formed from the Master's consciousness. The space was formed from the consciousness of the ancient overlord, but compared to them, their minimum level was legendary. If the secret space has really opened, then there are a lot of rare resources and pets there. With its appearance, there is an opportunity to reap great benefits. It seems that there is nothing wrong with the fact that the stone statue has collapsed. The main character asks many questions about the secret of this world. John believes that he should not approach this space and explore it because it could be very dangerous. Suddenly, his thoughts are interrupted by a sharp knock on the door. A man is standing outside the threshold saying that public help has arrived. Since no one answers their knock, they decide to knock down the door, which gets the guy very scared and screams at them not to do it. He is very worried that people found out that he destroyed the stone giant. Opening the door, John discovers behind it a girl who had recently been near the secret space and asked questions. She summoned her pet in the form of a lion. The girl introduces herself, saying that her name is Louise. She is a doctor of archaeology at the capital's university, a member of the Archaeological Research Association. She came to find out some information from the main character. He invites the girl inside the house, also introducing himself, saying that he doesn't work anywhere and wants to become a master of beasts. Louise enters the backyard looking at the surroundings. The panda and the silkworm are hiding behind a pot on the street, looking around in fear at the guest. She asks John if he had anything to do with the destruction of the statue in the Overlords Association, if he heard a voice coming from it. The 11th looks angrily at his pet in the form of a lion who smiles sweetly. Louise says that the statue is not alive, but the main character has the gift of telepathy, which can happen not only with living creatures. Some non-living beings who come into contact with the senses can gain a soul. This can only be heard by those with telepathy. Hearing a voice is a very rare gift throughout history. During destruction, many facts are lost, but people with telepathy can help restore these facts. The remaining traces of history have supernatural powers and are very difficult to destroy. It is much easier for people who reflect with telepathy to find a way to overcome this protection. The guy came into contact with the soul of the statue and provoked the appearance of traces of antiquity. Perhaps this trace has information about the ice source. Since the main character has a gift, Louise reads that he is a born archaeologist and invites him somewhere. John flies into a rage because in a past life he was also an archaeologist who paid for his curiosity. The main character's place would be to raise a panda, earn money, meet true love, get a cat, and then go to a quiet city where he can live in peace. He tells the girl that he is not interested in archaeology. He is also not going to join any association and does not want to work at the university. During the dialogue, the silkworm, panda, and lion became great friends. They play with each other and communicate verbally. The girl asks not to rush and not to make hasty conclusions. With such talent as his, there are only 11 people in the entire state. Louise kneels down to watch the animals. The guy reflects that people with telepathy are even rarer than overlords at the legendary level and creatures at the totem level. He suggests that if he is so rare, then the guy should be treated well in the team, and ultimately John agrees to accept the agreement. The guy still decides to ask where he is being invited. Under what conditions? Louise replies that if he becomes a ruler at the legendary level, he will not find such good conditions. John is very happy about this news because perhaps the lords of the legendary level will be his bodyguards. It seems that this will be to his advantage. A deceased archaeologist in a past life achieves success in a new one. The main character will be a member of a very cool group. There will be no obligations at work because there is a very simple structure. Everyone has great freedom of action. He will be able to make his own decisions. There is no pressure. The main character is delighted with the fact that he will be able to make his own decisions and will not have to travel to dangerous places and risk his life, which means he will be able to use any resources, materials, and security. This Bureau for Research of Historical Monuments of the State and Their Protection, by numbering, is called the 11th Bureau. This group includes special people in the field of archaeological research. It is engaged in special research of ancient monuments. John notices the fact that he sees the number 11 everywhere, and in the end, despite all his doubts, he agrees to the job. Louise is also a member of the group, which, including these two, consists of 11 people. The girl congratulates the main character, saying that from this day on, he is a reserve member of the Bureau. She explains that to become an official member of the group, you need to pass certification. In addition, the guy is still too weak. The group can provide $10,000 for initial expenses. The main task is to reach the specialist level as soon as possible and gain certain knowledge about archaeological research. The main character is ready to do anything to get money. It is more important to him than personal security. All the animals smile contentedly. With this amount, John will definitely be able to feed his pets. Tomorrow, he will receive his ID and money. But unless absolutely necessary, the girl does not advise disclosing information that the guy is a member of the 11th Bureau. Otherwise, foreign intelligence officers may find out. Louise says that when the protagonist becomes an official member of the Bureau, she will be the point of contact between him and the group. Suddenly, John realizes that many will probably want to eliminate those who can unravel the secrets of the historical trail, and he is still so weak. The girl says that the task for certification is to find out the truth about the history of the city. There is no time limit. As soon as the guy finishes, he will immediately become a member of the group. Even those who can hear the voice of history cannot hear everything. Some kind of push is definitely needed. This task is ideal for John. Rejoicing, the main character asks if he can get in touch with that secret space. Even if he does not use the privileges of a member of the Bureau, he will be able to enter the secret space in any case. Louise offers him as a gift to receive one of the techniques, either for the silkworm or for the panda. She wonders if the 11th is his first pet. He probably has no contact with the silkworm, and it is listed as a wild animal, despite its excellent development. The girl activates the cheat for skills, and the main character is very happy about this, because despite the money, they also give him a gift. John looks at his pet, trying to gain his approval, thinking about whether it is good to accept so many gifts, because he cannot easily receive rewards. He thinks who should best give the new skill. He doesn't want to let go of the silkworm, but apparently this is the best option now. If the insect can become stronger, it will continue to be useful. The guy would really like to have an animal of high origin. Just in case, John clarifies whether it is possible to choose both options, because making the right decision is difficult for him. He explains that he wants to become strong and benefit archaeologists, and Louise thinks that she did not count on such impudence on his part, but still agrees, chalking it up to an advance payment. For now, he can only make a contract with one pet. When he becomes an entry-level overlord, he can have 2 contracts. But to make a contract with a high-origin pet, and this will not be enough, he will not be able to support the rapid growth of such a pet. John agrees because now he won't be able to take on another pet. The girl promises to recommend him to the bamboo and stone courtyard to find a suitable skill for the panda. Everything turns out as the main character expected. He has a mentor. A rational curriculum is much better than copying. Louise asks if the guy is going to make a contract with the silkworm when he becomes a crystal butterfly. But he replies that green silkworms are just one of the strongest and most flexible pets, so he couldn't resist and decided to try to raise him. It has already been established that these insects can evolve into many different species. Silkworms can change completely, and for this there are different approaches to their cultivation. They can become moths or day butterflies. Several dozen species are already known. Almost all scientists involved in research on the development of pets take silkworms as their first research object. And the reason is that the development time silkworms are quite short, and what emerges from the cocoon is a lottery ticket. Louise says that she knows 3 ways to develop the commander level. The guy can choose from them. When this silkworm grows up, his powers can surpass even the powers of your panda. It is very convenient if he is your second pet. The methods are divided into the level of commander of the lowest, middle, and highest rank. The conditions for development also vary in level of complexity. The first is a low-rank commander-level ice sailboat, which has the properties of wind and ice elements. The most powerful skill is creating a blizzard. Next is the demon butterfly, mid-rank commander level, belongs to the element of darkness, is strong in curses and surprise attacks. The last is the light fairy butterfly, top-rank commander level, has the element of light, is able to control light, and is good at magic. In addition to special raw materials and food to raise these species, before the silkworm enters the cocoon stage, its ability to weave threads must to reach the experienced level. This way you can unleash the maximum potential of the silkworm. But it is difficult to train a silkworm to such a level. You should not force it because life expectancy and talent have limits. The main character wonders what if the silkworm is having a hard time to reach the excellent level, then how difficult it will be to move to the ideal level. But if he reaches it, then perhaps the potential will be revealed to the full 200%. Louise explains that if the guy manages to find a suitable secret space for his development, then he will spend huge efforts on training him, then maybe bring him to such a level until the silkworm turns into a cocoon, or John can reach the legendary level, and then to engage in silkworms. There is no need to talk about the ratio of price and quality. She also says that the quality of the threads does not always increase as the level goes up. To destroy the cocoon, the silkworm needs to awaken a new type of skill in itself that will help it cope with this, and in order for it to develop these skills in itself before creating the cocoon, John must provide it with the right raw materials. He thinks that if you teach the insect the necessary skills, it will be able to break its cocoon. The guy decides that he will use his own approach, will not follow science. Now he understands those researchers who like to come up with new ways of growing. John believes that he will develop the development to the fairy of light butterfly, but he may not be able to achieve this. First, he needs to study the information about food. Louise says that due to the choice of rank, the degree of difficulty varies, so it is imperative to be well prepared for the silkworm transformation. She gives the main character a detailed guide to developing a silkworm and also asks him to study it well before starting the business. In order to raise a light fairy butterfly, you must have the skill of weaving threads at an experienced level or higher. In the form of complementary foods, you need to use an unripe heart of light, ripe sunflower petals, a luminescent bone, glowing mushrooms, daylight stone powder, and ripe sparkling grass. Following the recipe, you need to mix all the ingredients to create a cocoon. After 30 days, the skill of rainbow light will awaken in the cocoon will collapse, and a butterfly fairy of light will appear from it. Louise encourages her new group member by suggesting they give it a try. He thinks that all this raw material will cost him a very large sum, so he decides to choose some other method of development. The main character gives the manual back to the girl. If his method does not work, then he will have to turn to this. Louise waves her hand and says goodbye to the guy, saying that he was able to develop his pets well. Although John did not want to return to his previous profession, if he had not been born for it, he would not have heard the voice of the statue. He decides not to think about it, since tomorrow he will have money, then today he can spend the rest. Arriving at the store, the main character tells the girl consultant about his desire to buy a phone, and then she asks to tell him in more detail. John explains that he needs a phone with internet access, energy metering, and a pet guide. Looking at the new gadget, I think that in appearance it is no different from the phones from my previous world, but still there are differences in functions. By pointing the phone at an object, the phone immediately recognizes a mechanical dog. The gadget provides a brief description of abilities, ranks, elements, the name of the dog, and provides brief information. The main character admires the functionality of the animal, but, unfortunately, he will not be able to copy his skills, because his pets are not able to use these abilities. The phone can detect not only energy fluctuations, but even the level of development of a mechanical dog. Although becoming a top-notch beastmaster is no easy task, this phone will do half the job. The guy assesses the situation. The gadget is good, but very expensive. If he buys it now, there will be no money left, and if Louise doesn't send money, then there will be nothing to feed the 11th. As a result, he breaks down and buys this phone, justifying himself by saying that if the girl gave him a way to develop, then she will also give him money. Leaving the store, John reflects that the 11th will be enough bamboo for another month, although he loves to eat it, but you can buy something better. Arriving at a place where raw materials are sold, the main character immediately takes out his phone and scans the steel tree. Judging by the name, there should be metal minerals. It's like a plant with a filling, just right for a panda. Belongs to the element of wood and gold, enhances the panda's ability to harden and gives vitality. This raw material is much more nutritious than steel bamboo. Usually it is given as food only to pandas of a supernatural level. Otherwise it can be overfed. But the 11th spends so much effort, it is unlikely that the main character will be able to overfeed him, although he eats several times more than he should. But he also trains very hard intensely. Arriving home, John lies down on the bed, finishing the registration on his phone. Now he will be able to read the news of the Beast Masters Association. The main character thinks that the silkworm still has enough food, so when he was in the store, he did not buy it. Suddenly, he sees a message on his phone inviting him to explore the traces of antiquity. For this, he needs to pass certification in combat skills. The guy jumps out of bed, shouting that you can't go inside the secret space. Maybe there are only wild animals there and there's nothing valuable. Perhaps I use people only as cannon fodder, because if you need to pass a certification for combat skills, then it's definitely dangerous inside. Suddenly, a panda and a silkworm enter the room. They look exhausted. They want to eat. John says that today they will have a feast, so he will now head to prepare food. While cooking, he thinks that with the phone in his hands, time has passed very quickly, so much so that it has already gotten dark outside. Having finished cooking, the main character put the dishes on the table and called his pets. They are drooling at the mouth, waiting for dinner to start. Without having time to blink, all three ate the dishes. The guy tells the animals to eat up because soon they will go to training in combat skills. After asking if the animals were happy, the panda shows class and smiles maliciously. John thinks that all the training they had did not help reveal the potential of the 11th. Only the demonic lion, Louise's pet, will help the panda in training. The evaluation criterion for certification is what beast the Overlord managed to defeat or what valuable materials you managed to collect, so they go there to try their hand. In the morning, Louise arrives with money. a recommendation for skills and a certificate with which John will be able to explore most of the traces of antiquity. The girl asks to go to the remains of the ice dragon on the mountain only when the main character reaches the specialist level, otherwise he may freeze. She also adds that to explore the snowy mountain, a guy can request security, but unfortunately, he cannot go into the secret space. John asks to tell us more about what is in the secret space. Louise begins to tell that the secret space used to be the space of the Master of Beasts. For starters, this space is very unstable. According to the results of the experiment, only master disciples can safely enter. If the level of the master is high, then the space and the trace of antiquity give rise to a reaction of rejection. Of course, people can exploit it by force, but it is very easy to bring the space to destruction, and then there will be more damage than good. In the end, the most valuable thing is the very trace of antiquity, and then, this trace of antiquity was probably a battlefield that Overlord changed it, and now it is needed for hardening. The new generation of overlords of his tribe, after the overlord gets inside, he finds himself in a separate space that no one else can enter. Creatures arise within that environment, and only by defeating them can one move on to the next separate space. According to the people who came out from there, the main task of the creatures is to defeat the enemy, but not to kill him. But if the fighter is too weak, then there is a risk. The girl sends a link to a website with products for raising pets. She believes that John will soon become a specialist. Louise reminds that the main goal now is the secret space, not the ice dragon. Although the main character can enter the secret space with his ID, he still decides that it is better to undergo a special certification to understand whether he can survive in the secret space. He decides that it is not worth the risk because there is still a chance of death. As she leaves, Louise thinks that as soon as John gets into their group, he will definitely become her assistant, and subsequently the master of the beasts. After the girl leaves, the main character can only rely on himself. In John's past life, research into antiquity was not highly valued, but in this world it is the key to unraveling totems and magical creatures. Although he again found himself in archaeology, just a few months later he was already a member of such a cool group. In his new life, the guy was able to achieve much more. Suddenly, the panda begins to scream loudly. The silkworm also comes running to the noise. Apparently, it has grown up again. Since John started feeding 11th with steel bamboo, he has grown tremendously in size and is now in his fastest growth period. He brings his panda another portion of food, offering to eat with a smile on his face. The main character takes out his new gadget and looks at the animals. They grow faster than ordinary pets. The speed of their skill development also exceeds the speed of other pets. John wonders what the certification result will be if he takes these guys with him. Arriving at the certification, he is very surprised that a huge number of people came. People around are discussing something that they have never seen so many people sign up for certification. The assistant girl reports the date and time of arrival at the place. The main character thanks her. 3 days later, on a clear and sunny day, people of different ages gathered on the site to try themselves out. Suddenly, John turns to the man calling his name and sees a familiar silhouette. It turned out that it was Edward. He looked very tired and exhausted. The guy was scared of him. He is surprised by his circles under his eyes. Apparently, he has really started swallowing tonics like candy. Many students from Edward's school also came for the certification because they were promised a reward for passing it. He says that after they left, the statue fell apart, but John knows that it was his doing. The main character says that the blue-haired guy should save his strength because he apparently works very hard, but Edward is 100% confident in himself. The teacher spilled the beans, and it turns out that only a fifth will pass this certification. Edward is very worried about the test. He is not sure that he can cope. If the panda managed to jump above his head, then the ice-shelled one will succeed. Edward asks if this is the first time the main character has participated in such an event. He agrees with him because he specializes in cultivation. The blue-haired guy begins to worry even more because of the information received. John wonders if Mary and Kate have arrived, but unfortunately they are not here. Edward waves at him and runs off to join his classmates. The guy pays attention to the people standing next to him. These are either invited overlords or a real army. All army training is paid for by the association. The conditions are not bad. If not for the tough training, then perhaps John could also become part of the army. A man in uniform blows a whistle, ordering everyone to calm down. He asks everyone present to sign a safety declaration, but for now, he will tell you all the most important things about the certification. The man's name is Chuck. He is responsible for conducting certification. In addition to him, there are also 4 overlords responsible for security. On the mountain of heavenly people, there are not only many animals, but also rare resources. All of them are recorded in the directory. Each species is assigned a special number of points. A device will be installed in front of the entrance to call for help. All trophies will be given to intelligence officers. They will count the results. The main task is to score as many points as possible within 3 days. The first 20 people will get the opportunity to get into the secret space. High-ranking Beastmasters give their comments. They would also like to return as disciples to get to this place. John opens the reference book, thinking about the names of the animals recorded in it. For a python, which is better not to hunt, they give 4,000 points, which is equivalent to 200 shrew mice. A python bite can make you lose your mind, but if you perfect it, you might be able to turn it all around for yourself. There is also an electric licker on the field. They are very dangerous, and you can also earn 4,000 points for catching them. The main character understands that the animals were brought from other countries. A lot of money was probably invested in this event. Slime has the multiplication skill, thanks to which you can change the size of your body. John understands that he really needs to get this ability. If this beast is in their country, then he cannot miss this opportunity. Chuck shouts that the certification will begin in half an hour, but in the meantime, people can go to nearby stores and stock up on food and tonics. It's good that there is time to buy equipment. The main character can choose all the essentials. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Edward appears, interrupting John's thoughts. He offers to team up to catch the python, but the guy is not sure if this can be done. The blue-haired student says that there are no requirements about this, but John still refuses. It seems to him that he can achieve better results alone than with these guys. Certification time has begun. Climb the mountain from 4 entrances. Mechanical birds fly across the sky. They are designed to keep an eye on those animals for which they promise 4,000 points. Participants should not approach them. John calls on the 11th, who is most determined to fight. To get to the mountainous area with magnetic iron ore, you need to cross the wild pigs. On the way, they meet a fanged wild pig, very aggressive. The panda and the main character are pleasantly pleased with the find because they are going to defeat everyone. The pet immediately gets ready for battle, intending to run to its opponent. A mid-rank skill, experience level ultravision, is activated. The 11th gallops quickly, hitting the boar over and over again, causing more damage to the beast. After the panda finished off the wild pig, the silkworm wrapped it in a hard cocoon. They earned 350 points. John thinks that if his blue-haired friend had fought this animal, he would have spent a lot more time. The guy hands the silk thread to the panda, and he admires the fact that his master was able to turn even a fight into training. Those watching the event are greatly surprised by the abilities of the main character. He is the first to deal with the beast, and he did it so easily. Seeing 4 more wild pigs along the way, the guy offers his pet to deal with them. The guards are shocked because the master's panda at the student level attacked 4 boars at once. Even if the pet was at the 10th level, it would hardly be able to win. The wild pigs themselves are shocked that one of the pets decided to attack them. The 11th one teases them. A herd of wild boars is running towards the panda, but the panda is confident in his own victory. He activates hardening. This is an experienced level, and the whole body is involved in it. The men are shocked by what they see. They don't believe their own eyes. If John is an apprentice, then he cannot have more than 1 pet, which is where the green silkworm came from with them. The guy says that the catch of 5 pigs is quite good. They already have 1750 points. The panda tells his owner that he is very tired. He agrees to sit down to rest and gives his pet delicious food. The main character opens the map, building a route and explaining it to the panda. Suddenly, a loud cry for help is heard from the forest. Even the birds scatter in different directions. The guy runs towards the scream. Apparently, another overlord screamed when he encountered wild pigs. The guys are running from a pack of 10 pigs, shouting to those who came to help to quickly hide in the trees and save themselves. They ask John why he doesn't run, but he wonders if 11 can handle the pigs, thereby increasing his effectiveness. A panda appears behind the main character, dragging 5 wild pigs behind him. They show wild boars that it is better not to approach them since they have killed many of their relatives. The pigs immediately run away from the guy they meet. John and these guys entered from the same entrance. Very little time passed from that moment. The guy explains that they should find a lone pig and surround it, not go deep into the forest. Trophies need to be left somewhere and rested, so the heroes come to a safe place. People around are surprised how the guy was able to catch so many pigs alone. The panda likes the attention in his direction, so he glows with joy and waves to all the overlords. The participants are seriously injured. At this point, there is even a healing pet. The main thing is that people do not die, but they can be cured. One of the people watching John comes out with a cart, offering to help him record his scores, but the guy asks if he can roast the pigs to eat them. The man says that it takes a very long time to work with meat, even though it is delicious in the fall. The main character takes first place in the ranking among everyone who came for certification. Scanning the captured animals, the guard thinks that during all his studies he has never seen such skills in pandas. He decides to tell his teacher about a guy he met at work. The teacher grins when he hears a familiar voice. The man left training and went to work in the security service. He is shocked by what he heard. Even the experienced panda lord had never heard of such a case because it is almost impossible. The teacher remembers that Louise came to him for skills for the panda. He checks the sources. John got the panda a month ago and has already developed such abilities in it. The man asks if the main character is a disciple of the Bamboo and Stone Palace. The teacher offers to send the guy to the mountain with more dangerous animals. Perhaps he will become a student of this palace. A man approaches the hero, inviting him to go to the mountain. The guy thinks that there is good food for the panda there. The guard talks about being a student at the Palace of Bamboo and Stone, which is where his interest lies. He explains that in order for the panda to control lightning, he needs to eat special food, but John does not understand why he is telling him all this. For a pet to master skills beyond race, special cultivation methods are needed, and food is an important component, but electric ore alone is not enough. Otherwise, it would not be the secret of the Bamboo and Stone Palace. The man says that if the main character would like to study in his palace, then he needs to train in the area with magnetic iron ore. If he feeds the panda ore, it will be constantly exposed to electric shocks. This is the basis for training and mastering the skill of lightning control. John already wanted to go to that area, and now he had good reasons for doing so. He calls to his pet, telling him that he will soon receive a treat. The panda is terribly happy about this after hearing this word. They happily head to their next training session, and people wonder where they get so much strength. A guy and his pet walk through the gorgeous landscape of the certification forest, passing a bridge. There was a warning that the magnetic field in this area has a strong effect on the overlords. Suddenly, the panda notices something to the side. They discover crystalline ore. Apparently, this is what they are looking for. The main character invites the pet to eat a stone, but he becomes indignant, because if he eats it, he will get a stomachache, and this will have a bad effect on his training. The guy calms down the 11th. In order to eat electric ore, you need the hardening skill at an experienced level. Just touching these crystals, the same panda is struck by a huge discharge of current. The pet, holding a stone in his hands, offers the owner to try it first, who continues to calm him down. He ferociously takes a piece of electric crystals into his mouth. Having swallowed pieces of ore, the 11th suddenly realizes that they really can be eaten. After eating all the crystals, the pet jumps around John, shouting that he wants more. After the panda eats a large amount of electrical ore, he will be able to deal with electrical discharges and will receive the gift of storing electrical energy. Whether there was still fire or frost ore here, the panda could also master other elements. If the hardening level reaches the ideal level and the lightning element skill is added to it, the 11th will become a real electromagnetic gun. On the way, the heroes meet an electric scorpion, which has absorbed lightning from ore. He takes a fighting pose, stands on his hind legs, and is about to attack. The 11th heads towards his rival. He is not the only one who wants to eat the ore on this mountain. The panda grabs the scorpion by one of its legs and begins to twist it in all directions. Those watching him do not understand what is happening. Apparently, the heroes decided to capture the mountain. This party clearly doesn't care about such meager points. His target is level 10 creatures. This panda is very strong. It is quite extraordinary. The creatures in the mountainous region are 3 electric lickers brought from abroad. The certification organizer is not sure that the guys will be able to cope with them, but it will not be difficult to escape. The slimes move very smoothly. Anyone who is able to pass the high school standards can easily run away from the slime. But if they still manage to defeat the slime, they will pay a considerable price, because the main skill of the slime is an electric shock. It is famous for its penetrating ability. Its level is 4 steps higher. The organizer orders to continue monitoring, but suddenly one of the overlords reports that they have already found an electric liquor. As John runs after his pet, he shouts that he remembered the smell of electric ore. Now he can look for the remaining one. Suddenly on the way, they encounter an electric liquor which the guys have been looking for so long. They rejoice at the find, although the battle promises to be difficult. The main character orders the panda to grab the enemy and take all his electricity. It's like the main boss in the game. If he drains it, they won't be able to defeat him. The 11th immediately takes off, heading towards his opponent. The creature looks terrifying. Apparently, the panda will not be able to eat it like ore. Those watching the cameras notice that the panda is wearing dielectric gloves, which they are very surprised by. They assume that the guys will defeat the electric liquor, but the organizer says that everything is not so simple, and they simply underestimate the beast. The panda is trying to hold off the attacks of his opponent. His face shows great fatigue and fear. The beast has become larger. The main character orders the pet to use the hardening skill. 11th strains his entire body, becoming an iron puppet. He, with great effort, pushes the electric liquor aside. The crippled animal squats down, confidently looking at the defeated enemy. The certification organizer assumes that both competitors will suffer, although the liquor is very exhausted, but the panda cannot stand it either. Suddenly, the pet begins to recover using its healing skills. Li Zun again prepares to attack the panda, but he quickly gets ahead. The main character orders him to praise his opponent and squeeze him like a lemon. The panda copes with such a difficult task, bringing his catch to the master. Since the panda doesn't need electricity, the guy only copies the multiplication skill. The observers look at the cameras, wondering why, if the main character has not yet defeated the enemy, he mocks him. The organizer asks if this guy is really a student because he looks quite intimidating. John thinks that there is quite a lot of ore in the area that they need to feed his pet, and they will take the rest. By developing the lightning element power and healing skill, the panda will be able to quickly recover from electric shocks. Let the 11th use the widow's electricity in their training. The main character tells his pet that they will rest in this place at night, now eat, and then try a new training method. The man who invited the guy to go to the mountain thinks that he did not expect such an outcome of events that the hero would use the slime as a training tool. The next day, the guys caught all 3 creatures. With dielectric gloves and the skills of the 11th, it was not difficult. You just have to avoid giving them too much food so that their abilities and the level of electricity generated remains at a relatively low level. They will not be able to attack back, but will generate energy for the pet, like generators. Panda's skill is increased by the mid-level skill Thunder Palm. John is very surprised by this because his pet himself has mastered the Thunder Palm skill. The guys resort again to the guy who sent them to the mountain to find out more information. The man is very surprised by what he sees because only 1 day has passed. It is impossible to awaken the talent of the lightning element in a panda so quickly. In theory, even if you feed on ore and receive electric charges, you cannot take possession of this element so easily. Otherwise, there would be many more pandas wielding the Thunder Palm in the palace of bamboo and stone. Although we saw on cameras how the guys trained, it is still impossible to achieve such results in such a short time. Not only did the training efficiency increase, but some unusual reaction arose between the two, causing the panda to further increase his speed. When the electrical energy accumulates to the point of causing a paralytic effect, at that moment the power of the Thunder Palm is at its greatest. The main character thought that in order for his pet to master this skill, he would need to go to study at the palace, but he was able to master it himself, and this surprises everyone. Apparently, there is some special connection between different skills. After learning a skill, mastering another one becomes much easier. John asks the guard to write down their points for the slime. He asks if the guy will go up the mountain again to the magnet iron area. The guy opens his bag, revealing a huge amount of electrical ore. He reports that a lot of grief there are no more resources left. The guard calls his teacher to report the protagonist's progress. He says that the guy went to the mountain to train with his pet. The man talks about everything in detail, but the teachers think that he is just joking. The guy tells his panda that he needs to look for nutritious food for the silkworm because he has been with them all these 2 days, but has not eaten anything. He helped them a lot. He tried so hard he needs to be rewarded. They will need the food that the main character has prepared for his second pet only later, and the rest of the time you need to feed him something simple. Only at the stage of transformation of the silkworm, there will be the greatest chance of learning new skills. The guy is thinking about how to raise his insect. Perhaps he will become an ice phoenix butterfly, and from the lowest level he will move to the level of the most valuable pet in the state. You can also choose a rare element for him if it suits him, for example, an element of space or an element in time. You shouldn't think about different development paths now, because the most important thing now is skills and food. It is also too early to think about quality food. First, you need to raise the silkworm to the highest level. In this forest, you can find dragon whiskers. The first-level spiritual plant is called, so because it looks like a dragon, it is the favorite food of pets that have the ability to create threads. This herb makes the thread even stronger and sharper. Suddenly, on the way, the guys, following food for their little friend, meet an unknown creature. They stop near the dragon's whiskers, looking at the plant with interest. Suddenly, a huge spider shoots its web in their direction. The 11th gets entangled in the tenacious material, and in a panic, he shouts to the overlord to be careful. The panda is trapped by a terrible beast which, smiling maliciously, pulls the victim closer to itself. John orders him to quickly activate the solidification, cut the web with steel wool. Confidence appears in the panda's eyes. He is going to defeat the enemy. The animal abruptly breaks the spider's threads, escaping from the trap. The guy orders his pet to use the gram palm, which is a new skill for him. The 11th immediately carries out the order. Suddenly, one of the spider's legs removes the animal in response, causing it to fly off to the side. The panda lands above the ground, leaving a sliding trail behind him. Apparently, he still doesn't have enough strength. The main character says that it is necessary to find the right moment and throw away the spider. He gives the necessary instructions for him and sends him further into battle. The wild beast again sprays its web at the enemy, who dodges it. Suddenly, the 11th grabs a stream of web with its paws. After this, he begins to quickly spin the spider with it in all directions, hitting it hard on the ground. Afterwards, John tells him to use the full solidification and thunder palm skills. Panda activates the gram palm with both paws and then does a force rotation from his body, after which he must shoot straight at the opponent. The main characters look at what is happening from the outside, rejoicing that the opponent is defeated. It seems that now the 11th's combat strength is even higher than that of this 10th level wild beast. There are probably still a lot of arachnids in the surrounding area, so it is better to know in advance how they might react. The jubilant pet raises his hand and smiles widely, enjoying the victory. The guy is still in first place among all the overlords, 4 creatures of the 10th level, 5 boars, and also a huge amount of resources, a total of 2,000 points. Electric birds fly across the sky, telling participants important information. The 3-day certification has been successfully completed. Security personnel will escort everyone off the mountain in order. The weaker beast lords are glad that the certification is over because they are already tired of eating only fruits. Some people run to wash themselves quickly. Others are upset by the large number of mosquito bites. Only John thinks that they did a good job. He will spend part of the winnings on something for himself, for example, buying the highest quality tonics. People panic when they learn that only 73 out of 100 people made it to the end. They had to stop the certification due to the injuries they received. The certification organizers shout that since people are standing here, it means they are capable of something, because this training area was created by people. If they didn't cope here, what's worth talking about the memory of antiquity? And you shouldn't even think about participating in certification for a specialty. It's better to return home and train your pets. If someone wants to know their final result, they can see for themselves. Everything the results are already posted on the wall. The first 20 participants will receive the right to enter the Trail of Antiquity. In a week, they will be taken to the Trail of Antiquity for the first time. The details will be announced later. The certification is over. After people find out the results, they can be free. The overlords looking at the table are interested in the question of who John is and why he has so many points. Edward notices a familiar figure in the crowd, paying attention to it. He recognizes his acquaintance in it. Noticing the attention to his person, the main character runs away in an unknown direction, which the blue-haired guy is very surprised by. Edward is surprised that John was able to defeat so many animals. He is upset because he tried so hard for a whole week, but did not move one step closer to his level. Many people ask who the guy in first place is. The guy explains that he is a new overlord who arrived from school in the city. On his advice, he bought Spirit of Light pills for complimentary feeding, and the guy is also very cool. The eyes of my acquaintances light up from what they hear. They also want to buy light pills. At the end of the assessment, John again meets the same guard from the bamboo and stone palace, helping him to exchange points. The man told his mentor that the guy's pet had acquired the Thunderpalm skill. The teacher invites the main character to the palace when he has free time. They have special karma, and the mentor also wants to pass on to him knowledge about the Thunderpalm. Having heard the necessary information, the guy runs away in an unknown direction. The guard thinks that this guy will definitely be able to learn everything. The guy is thinking about the manager of the training palace. Maybe he will teach the guy something else besides the already learned skill because he is one of the most powerful overlords in their city. He probably knows secret techniques. Having returned home, the main character, together with his pets, takes a hot bath, rejoicing at his speedy return. Finally, they will be able to eat normal food, enjoying the taste and safety. And they will also be able to sleep on a large bed without being crowded on the ground in the forest. And not very long ago, they wanted all this. The countryside is not at all suitable for life. When the main character has money, he will buy himself a big robot and begin to control it. He wants one like in the famous cartoon, so that he can become a plane, a car, and even a house. The guy thinks that they will be taken after the old man only in a week. Maybe he should go when he becomes stronger. On the other hand, it would be better to go now. You shouldn't limit yourself. By all means, first of all, you need to spend all the money you earn. You can use it to buy high-level food for silkworms, and you can also stock up for quite a long time. The main character goes to the site to buy tonics, pills without impurities of much better quality than his pills, which are made from very poor raw materials. They are very expensive, but fortunately he has money. Also on the site there are tablets with the addition of animal sprouts, queen bee pollen of white flowers, and dragon frog oil. John doesn't understand why they seem so familiar to him. They probably really help a lot. The beans are not bad, but you'll have to pay a lot of money for something of such low quality. You can buy one and try it. Perhaps thanks to this tool, it will be possible to learn a new high-level skill, either multiplication, or the skill of absolute sleep, or the skill of intimidation. The main character spends a lot of money. There is no longer 10% of his profit, but with the help of expensive tonics, the 11th will be able to learn high-level skills, so it is worth it. Thinking about his spending, the guy peacefully falls asleep without even having time to notice it. Suddenly, his pet jumps on him, screaming for him to wake up. He really wants to eat. The panda spent a lot of energy on training. It's worth feeding him now. Silkworms still have strength in training, so he won't feed him today. The next day, John comes out of his house, shouting that today he and 11 will go to the palace of bamboo and stone. Having received the notification, the guy takes out his phone. The goods that he ordered the day before yesterday are now on their way. It's very fast. He hears a loud noise. Someone announces that they are ready to land, ordering him to move away. The human courier arrived on a huge eagle holding a huge box in its talons. The men get down from their vehicle, open the box, and take out a smaller package. He says that this is John's order, asking him to sign for receipt. The courier is a master of beasts. He only became a specialist this year. If he did something wrong, he asks to forgive him. The main character thinks that in this world, even the requirements for delivery are so high, although the salary is probably quite high, since the goods on that site are of very good quality. The courier thinks why the client needs so many high-quality tonics. At his level, he doesn't need so much, but this doesn't concern him. Perhaps these goods will be useful to him. The man flies higher and higher, taking his box with him, wishing him all the best. John opens his package of tonics, looking at what he received with a smile. He calls his panda to him, asks him to come closer. With the ability of intimidation, one can also improve the skills of absolute sleep. They still have a lot of tonics. They can improve the skills whenever they want. In the enlarged state, the 11th has excellent combat strength. In the reduced state, his speed and recovery ability increases, so now it is best to learn this particular skill. The main character begins to teach his pet a new skill. He thinks that he will get it again without effort, because he has just learned the Thunder Palm skill, but the Overlord wants to make him stronger again. The skill cooldown is now 168 hours. The guy thought the maximum cooldown time was 72 hours, but now it is doubled. He decides to eat another bean in order to reduce the cooldown time of the skill. Now it is 48 hours. It seems that learning high-level skills is limited. Until his own strength grows, the guy may not be able to significantly improve his skills even with tonics. The panda is mastering new abilities. I feel a surge of strength and energy. In order to check the success of the training, the main character asks his pet to increase in size. Suddenly, the animal's stomach begins to growl loudly. Apparently, the increase takes a lot of effort. The guy orders the pet to shrink in size, and it becomes very small. It seems that when exaggerated, his body weight doubles, and when reduced it becomes less than half. Now this is the limit. It's time to eat. If the panda is in less condition, then the guys will be able to save a lot on food. One holy bean can compensate for a period of weakness for 120 hours. If you eat another one, then perhaps you can fully recover. Your health will be even better than before. The instructions say that during the period of weakness, you can eat women in large quantities until your strength is fully restored. The effect of the beans will last more than 48 hours. This is an extra expense, and the instructions do not say whether you can eat half. If you count and round up, then the main character may lose several thousand. He thinks about how to save the money spent, whether something can be replaced or removed. The queen bee is clearly not considered a royal-level creature. Despite her name, she simply controls the system. This thing came from the nectar of various flowers. It has many more names. In the guy's past, it was also used as a tonic. Those chewable capsules that John bought at the pharmacy forcibly restored the body, only due to the presence of medicinal raw materials in the composition. They do not have the effect of reducing the recovery period for learning the skill. He will no longer go to the pharmacy. Suddenly, the guy discovers something else lying in the box. He doesn't understand what it is. Apparently, he didn't order anything else. It turns out that there is something wrapped in film with a note in which it is written that someone is eager to see him perform again. This is a new combat suit, a note from a secret admirer. In the palace of bamboo and stone, everyone is training, and the teacher is reflecting on the fact that he has finally found a student who is able to fully obtain all of his knowledge, even mastering the skills of the Thunder Palm in just one day. The man strongly doubts whether he can teach him. Suddenly, a girl in a panda costume calls out to him. This is his daughter, who sold the panda to John. She suggests that her father go somewhere for lunch, maybe to the Dragon King's palace. The teacher sternly asks the girl if she has finished her training. She was certified as an overlord at the age of 18, and then immediately changed her specialty to cultivation, chose the faculties of research and evolution to study the development ability of pandas. In the end, she did not research anything. Her strength fell. No results. The teacher remembers his daughter mentioning John, talking about a very disciplined beastmaster. The girl is happy that he decides to join the palace, but the father refutes this idea, explaining that he simply received orders to help him in training. He asks if she knows how his panda developed after he left. She doesn't know, but she told them that if they have questions, they can come to them at any time. But if he doesn't come, then everything is fine. The man is very angry at these words. John and his pandas participated in the Lord competition on the mountain, and he received first place. The panda lover is very surprised by this because that panda only awakened to the 3rd level a month ago. The man can't believe it either, but soon he will come for a visit, and then they will all find out if John is at least half as good as they say. It will be great. The daughter interrupts her father's thoughts about the imminent arrival of his student, asking if they will go to eat. The man boils, answering that no, meeting such a talented person is much more important than filling his belly. He should find out what is so special about these guys. He should rather get to know him. The girl is surprised by the answer. Apparently her father dares to go against her mother and is not afraid to return to bed in the evening. She says that she already told her mother that her father will come. He gasps and asks his colleagues to tell John to come back after lunch. He is suddenly very hungry. The main character stands near the entrance to the palace, asking if anyone is here. Suddenly, the door is opened by a familiar person. They meet again. The girl asks to follow her. The father is waiting inside. The man asks him to sit down. His daughter's thoughts say that John is really not the same as before. The girl can't believe what her father told her at dinner. Where did the guy have such fighting abilities? She cared a lot about his pet, and remembers what strength he had a month ago. The father said that perhaps John had a great chance. The teacher says that if the main character wants to study in the Palace of Bamboo and Stone, he will teach him everything he knows in terms of panda development. He won't be able to give him much. Thunder Palm and Explosive Fist are the most valuable skills the palace gives to the pandas, and although they feed them quite expensive food, it does not compare in value to the books containing the secrets of these skills. John thanks them for this. The man offers him free use of the 3 training grounds and all the equipment. Food for his panda will also be provided by their palace. The teacher says that if he has any questions, he can ask him at any time. There is no need to go through standard training with other students. The girl is in great shock from what she heard, because Dad is not even so kind to her. The man believes that such talent requires a special approach. The guy is happy with what he heard. They say that this suits him, because it means free food, housing, and even unlimited access to training equipment. He will also be able to consult with a high-level overlord at any time. It turns out that John can use the reward for participating in the certification to buy tonics, and the palace will provide food for the 11th, but he does not know whether the owners of the palace will be able to feed him enough. As for the silkworm, there is food for it everywhere outside. The guy did the right thing when he agreed to join this bureau, otherwise he would still be idle. As the teacher understood, his panda had already learned the Thunder Palm skill. Moreover, he had already reached 1 level of the solidification skill. The panda lover does not understand what is happening. Their conversation has long gone beyond what is permitted. The first thing the panda guy needs to train is the Thunder Palm skill. It is a little easier than the Explosive Fist skill. Don't take on too much. If you want to learn the Explosive Fist skill, he advises you to master the Thunder Palm skill first. The guy thinks about what was said. Ordinary pandas probably need the Explosive Fist skill, but his panda can already correct himself just fine. He doesn't need the fire element ability. If necessary, the 11th will be able to master this skill later. The teacher offers to go to the training ground so that he can tell him about everything in more detail, and before that introduce him to other students. If he studies in their palace, then he will need to contact them. The girl thinks that John does not deserve such kindness from Dad. If Mom were here to support her, she would ask everything out. The man says that the security guard from the certification told him about him, but then he doesn't fully understand his situation. He would like to see the guy on the battlefield with other students. The daughter is very happy when she hears this. She was expecting a similar phrase from her father. The guy says that it's not difficult for him. He's ready to fight. Usually, disciples at the practical training level undergo serious training in the palace. This is the ground for basic training. The disciples of their gang train here after eating. The main character looks at the pandas. They are very lazy, not wanting to work. The 11th in their place would run with all his might. The teacher continues to say that pandas are very lazy by nature. They are trying to change this little by little with training. Otherwise, there may be problems on the battlefield. John says that if his panda does not complete the training, he will not eat. Otherwise, the balance will not be maintained. Everyone is shocked because they have never seen such pandas. The girl says that it sounds very unrealistic because they didn't have this. She asks what the main character did with the 11th when he took him. He remembers the words of the panda. He said that the ruler gives him too much, which he does not deserve. He will try his best and resent his care with sweat and blood. The men continue to say that after hardening the body, they arrange sparring sessions to practice the hardening skill. They are approximately at the 8-10-year level. The teacher will choose the strongest one for him. He calls out to a man named Jeff, saying they are coming down. The man introduces him to a new student. Jeff looks at his teacher with confusion. Apparently, they haven't had new students for a long time. Not far from the group of people, there are more palace students. They make humorous remarks about the teacher's daughter. The teacher calls them over so they can all meet John. The main character waves his hand, greeting people. Jeff says to contact him if there are any questions. The teacher says that he wants the guys to fight. If the old student loses to the new one, he will train even more with his panda. Jeff thinks that he can definitely handle just one guy, agreeing to the fight. Other students think that they weren't even given a chance to show off in front of their sister. The mentor just decided to intimidate the new guy. He wants to show the real strength of their palace. The strongest student asked John to prepare his pet. The main character summons the 11th to the battlefield. People around are surprised because the panda is just a cub. It seems that he is only at the 6th level of awakening, just a beginner. Jeff's panda is at level 10 and also has the hardening skill at the expert level. His daughter's teachers are watching the beginning of the battle with interest. Each of them probably knows the outcome. The experienced student tells the newcomer to attack first, otherwise they will kill him and the panda with the first blow. The 11th also rushes forward, leaving behind clouds of dust. The girl and the teacher are surprised at the speed. The force is very great. Jeff orders his pet to fend off the attack. Although this panda seems to be quite powerful, it is still just a cub. The adult uses the skill to freeze when an opponent tries to hit it. The guy is confident in his pet's hardening skills. 11 knows what to do, which is why he uses electricity. An experienced student is surprised, because such a skill is only possible for a panda of a supernatural level. He no longer has time to cancel the skill for hardening. The adult animal flies back at great speed. The teacher is very surprised, because this is really a thunderpalm. A panda cub at the 6th level of awakening has mastered this skill. It seems that this panda trained hard after receiving the skill, although she did not reach the point of completely losing her combat strength. Jeff's panda may remain paralyzed. The guy is very surprised, not believing his eyes. His pet screams loudly, experiencing incredibly severe pain. He is ready to fight back. The 11th takes a fighting pose in order to defend himself in case of attack. Jeff uses a skill called Hard Claws. The panda immediately takes off, heading towards his opponent. He thinks that he can't lose to a newcomer, even if he uses the Thunderpalm skill. But if he loses to him, it will be a shame. If he really lost, his panda wouldn't be able to handle the extra training. John tells his pet not to take cover but to remain firm before attacking. This is a great opportunity to show off their hardening and smoke palm skills. The rest should be hidden for now. An adult panda cannot hit cubs because all its skin is hard as stone. There was no trace of the blow left on 11's skin. The opponent is surprised by this because his opponent not only has Thunderpalm skills, but also experienced level hardening. This skill is higher than his. He tries to hit the little panda, but he fails every time. Then 11 decides to hit back, concentrating his power on his fist. By inertia, the panda flies high into the air, and the opponent flies towards his owner. She is knocked out, unable to continue the fight. John smiles widely, thanking his opponent for the fight. The man does not believe that this cub is at the 6th level of awakening. Probably even his students and their certified pandas will not be able to cope with him. The teacher comes closer, telling Jeff that he lost and will now train twice as hard. The man thinks that his opponent is strong like his teacher's own son. The teacher tells his experienced student to go and treat his panda, and the new student goes with him. The girl thinks that the 11th has changed terribly much since their last meeting. She angrily shouts at the other students that they will also study twice as hard. The students are still not sure that the new students are a beginner because he is very strong. 11 tells his master that the teacher and his face seem familiar to him. A group of people enter a round room with a word written on the floor. The panda and the girl are happy to meet. They look at each other, smiling. They hug tightly. The panda lover understands that this is still the same 11th, but it is unknown what happened to him, why he suddenly became so strong. The man says that the main character took great care of this panda. She is the best he has ever seen. Suddenly, the pet realizes that she most likely saw this guy at the base before, but does not know who he is. John thanks the man, who replies that the guys have limitless prospects. He was very sorry that he could only teach them so much. The teacher's gaze changes sharply. He becomes stern and angry. A man opens an unknown portal with a panda symbol. A huge animal appears behind him. He says that he will show you how to train the solidification and thunderpalm skills, and also provide reference materials. John looks at the beast for a moment, realizing that it is a fighting panda. The giant pet stands with his arms crossed. He is wearing wide pants. He looks very menacing. He belongs to the teacher. Various hardening level skills should be written reference books, and as for the gram palm, the panda is proficient at the initial level. If you hit with a powerful electric current, you can put the opponent into an anesthetic state, but the penetration force is still small. Otherwise, the panda could penetrate the opponent and hit him with one blow. Then the teacher turns away from the guys to the side, intending to show some kind of technique. The teacher's animal prepares to demonstrate its skill by waving its arm. This is what the penetration of current looks like in the Thunder Palm skill at an experienced level. At this level, even hard steel can be pierced with the help of the Thunder Palm skill. John is very surprised. The strength of the 11th compared to this is simply nothing. The panda admires what he saw. He must do even better. The teacher continues to talk about the panda's mistakes. She lacks strength when struck. Well, at a deeply studied level, the Thunder Palm skill goes into a normal state. You can hold the electric current directly in your paws as if wearing gloves, or you can also use both paws at once. The huge panda demonstrates another technique, and the man explains that this is an experienced level Thunder Palm. Now you can bring this skill to the ideal. At an experienced level, the skill has a greater current flow, which means it paralyzes the enemy more strongly. At this moment, you can generate the most powerful blow and also develop unprecedented speed. After the main character brings this skill to an excellent level, the penetrating power of the current, combined with the speed of the panda, can be compared with even real lightning. John notes that it sounds very powerful and looks cool. The teacher says that this is not all. He strives for something else. By snapping his finger, he signals his pet to show some kind of technique. He immediately raises his paw up, lightning flying around him. The beast is transformed, becoming human-like. The guys look at the ability with open mouths. I assume that this is a combination of the Thunder Palm of solidification. The experienced panda smiles maliciously, realizing that she is the strongest in this place. The girl says that this is cooler than ordinary combinations. I combine skills and go to a wonderful level. The combination of two skills at an excellent level among the Beast Lords is called the secret meaning. This is the Thunder Shell, one of the secret meanings of the Panda Father. With this hidden meaning, the panda can defeat even ruler-level creatures. Combining skills is very difficult. The panda must have the Thunder Palm and solidification skills at the same time in order to combine them, and using these two skills at the same time is not an easy task. The girl looks at her father approaching the panda. They are both very scared, and she emits many electric rays from herself. First, you need to think carefully about whether the pet can use two skills at the same time, and then think about whether the powers of the two skills will counteract each other. Combination is not the strongest advantage. The strongest advantage is strong skills. If a pet has two skills of an excellent level and can combine them, this is called sacred meaning. Whether a pet can master sacred meaning and how strong it will be depends on the cultivation skills of the overlord. The teacher thinks that it is too early for John, and even for many masters at the specialist level, to know the word sacred meaning. Even for specialists, it is not just too early to know this term, but very early. After all, not every specialist can train his panda to an excellent level. But if the 11th works hard, he will definitely achieve his goal. Suddenly, the main character asks if the Thundershell can be improved. He greatly surprises everyone in the area with his question, because this technique is already very powerful. The guy explains that panda's vision is not very good, and at such speed they will not be able to control their actions well. The panda lover says that there are no ideal sacred meanings. With such an ace in the hole, when fighting with a not particularly fast opponent, there will already be success. If there was some skill that allowed one to predict the enemy's movement in order to determine his location, then the effect of the gram shell would be much stronger. It would be better to combine the skill of solidification, thunder palm, and multiplication at an excellent level when facing the most powerful opponent. The teacher says that the problem is that it is difficult to master skills related to thinking and feeling. But he likes the way he thinks. Every greasy meaning is not ideal and has its own shortcomings. If you add a sacred meaning to a new skill, you can increase its effectiveness. Of course, for the main character, this goal is still far away. His task now is to increase the level of the panda's Thunder Palm skill. Then he can try simple combinations of Thunder Palm and hardening. Improving the skill of Thunder Palm is not easy, after all. This skill is not natural for pandas. To train in the palace, you need to have a strong ability to withstand stress. To train a skill to an expert level, the pet must have the ability to control strength as well as physical endurance. If you make a mistake during the transition to the excellent level, the pet may get injured, and the training process will become too brutal for it. Each stage has its own aspects. If difficulties arise, the teacher asks you to contact him. He explained to the guy the features of each stage of mastering the skills of the Thunder Palm, but there are still many details left. and mastering all this is quite difficult. John happily raises his hand, saying that he will try, and the panda thinks about different approaches between the master and this uncle. Let the main character master the combination of solidification and thunder palm first. This will be enough to pass the specialist statue. And if he can perfect his skills and combine solidification, gram, palm, and multiplication into one combination, he will be able to wipe the faces of the earth, even an entire city. The girl shows John where the equipment for training basic elements is. 11 thinks that it is not clear here that the training was in full swing. The panda lover also shows where the electric training room is located. In this room, you can practice resistance to electric current in pandas. The maximum impact force is a natural level. There is also a pool of conductive current. You can practice fighting techniques in water and at the same time train resistance to current. Approaching the pool, the panda says that he wants to go there, but the guy asks him not to rush. If they use all this equipment, the 11th's training will become more complete and scientific. And most importantly, there is free food and water. While the main character is thinking about this, his panda falls into the pool. Entering the room, the girl calls her father, who asks if the guests will come and if they liked everything. He says that they probably liked everything because Jonah's panda ate a lot. If this panda is really so disciplined and trains a lot, then maybe he should eat more. The girl reads what the panda ate, namely electric ore, steel bamboo, steel wood, gold spirit ore, as well as their special set meal. Hearing this, the man goes into shock. She ate a double portion of the food that their pandas eat after training. The teacher says that this is really a lot, but that's normal. The girl explains that they only fought once in the arena. Without having started any training yet, he thinks that they will need to stock up on food. But that's not a problem. Just a panda at the awakening stage. But if the panda grows up and needs more food, he will not be able to provide it. Possesses the ability of absolute sleep, the 11th can digest food faster in his sleep. So there is no need to worry that he eats too much. Everything will be absorbed. At this rate, a guy can take his pet to supernatural levels in just a few months. In this world, pandas live an average of 35 years. If the panda is properly fed and provided with good conditions for development, it will move to the supernatural level in about 10 years. At this age, pandas are already considered adults. This rate of development is normal for them. Well, the Overlord can speed up this process, for example. The 11th can move to the supernatural level in just 2 years. There is no need to worry about Panda John's level in terms of certification, but his own level is in doubt. You need to look for some means for hardening. There are no longer enough tonics. At the panda breeding base, the main character is given a small sensor where all stages of training are recorded. It seems that his father placed all his hope in John. He hopes that his panda will be able to overcome the boundary of his species. Suddenly, the guy notices something. I am distracted from looking at the sensor. The girl slowly turns her head, not understanding what happened. The guy shouts at her to be careful, her eyes open wide, directing her gaze towards the danger. John shouts that he will definitely use all these resources and cope with everything. If the palace feeds the 11th enough, he won't let down their expectations. He doesn't want the pet to just eat here for free. The girl smiles sweetly. I am touched by these words. The 11th got a good master. As long as he is with him, she is calm. Before going to bed, the main character invites his pet to learn a new skill. They stand in front of each other, rejoicing at the end of the day. The panda wants to see the limit of his capabilities. His owner notices that he is working harder and harder, but he is gaining skills just like that. This is not very good. It is imperative to compensate them with labor. John activates learning a new skill by laying his head on his pet. Waking up in the morning, the main character slowly pulls himself up in his bed. It's good that he takes tonics. With such an expenditure of energy, he needs to sleep until the evening. The 11th already has the skills of the gram palm at an experienced level. It is unknown whether anything else can be learned today. John notices that his pet is sitting tiredly on the rocks, not exercising at all. He does not understand what happened to his animal overnight. The guy slowly approaches him, asking what happened because today he is somehow quiet. The pet explains that hardening at a deeply studied level and thunder palm at an experienced level will probably be difficult to combine. Don't train all night, sleep well, eat, but still can't combine skills. John, looking at his insect, thinks that he must have been very scared because they trained all night. It's probably a matter of insufficient level, but they will succeed. The 11th is touched by this, thinking that he has a very kind master. Again, you need to go in the yard. The main character will no longer allow the panda to train at night. Because he eats a lot, let him sleep better. I should have asked yesterday if it was possible to order delivery, otherwise going out for food every day is quite tiring. Arriving at the palace, John meets his teacher. He asks if he wants to explore the trace of antiquity. According to the military's feedback, this place is indeed better for training. With his abilities, he can get a lot of benefits. The teacher needs to leave the city for a while. If there are any questions, he asks to contact his daughter. The gray-haired man explains that the whole city buys food for pandas here, and they also have delivery. The teacher said that he can freely use all the resources. Delivery is also included. He only needs to indicate the quantity, address, and delivery time. The guy is happy with what he heard, and then asks for a triple portion of the panda's daily food every day. There are 3 days left before the research campaign of the Association of Overlords. We have everything we need, namely tonics and food. And now you should learn a new skill, the skill of intimidation. The main character begins to cast a spell. Starting today, his panda is the king. The 11th is undergoing a great transformation. He has learned all the necessary skills. All that remains is to improve them and become stronger.